Tonight, Infinity Man. Sinestro. All that and more tonight on the not-so-new 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 186 of the not-so-new 52. I am your host and okay, let's get this out of the way up front. This is a weird week. This might be the weirdest week we've ever had on this show. So, if you've been following the past few episodes, you may know this week, as originally slated by DC Comics, had 19 comics coming out. Now, that does not seem amazingly bad. It is. It absolutely is. But it was specifically the makeup of this week that made it so bad. Not only did we have 19 comics, but one of them was Secret Origins, which is an anthology book that is already twice the length of a normal comic. And the other one is Multiversity Ultra Comics, which is the densest, most mimetic meta book I could ever possibly talk about on this show, and takes like at least 15 minutes to get through. So I was not about to try to fit all of that in to one episode. So what I've been doing, if you haven't been paying attention, is taking certain books from this week and moving them into the previous weeks. I did, I think, 3 extra books 2 weeks ago and then 2 extra books last week. So collectively, all of them got 14 books total. So when I say that this week's books are whatever in a few seconds, just know if you want the full experience, you'll have to listen to the previous week's episodes as well. Is this me just telling you that so I can get extra views or listens? Anyway, so episode 186 coming out this week, or at least is on this episode in no particular order. Batgirl Endgame, Arkham Manor, Catwoman, Red Lanterns, Sinestro, Aquaman, Flash, Infinity Man, G.I. Zombie, Justice League Dark, our 3 weeklies of Batman Eternal, World's End and Future's End, and of course, Multiversity Ultra Comics, as mentioned before. The other books that I shifted around that you'd have to go back for is Gotham Academy, Gotham by Midnight, Batman and Robin, Deathstroke, and Secret Origins. Okay? All that out of the way? Cool, great, awesome. I don't really want to waste any more time because, like I said, Ultra Comics is about to take the entire cake of this show. So let's just not waste any more time and see what Grant Morrison's going to burn my brain out with. Multiversity Ultra Comics #1, written by Grant Morrison, art by Doug Mahnke. So, Jesus Christ, where do I even begin? If you want metatextual, this is the book. So even on the cover, you've got Ultra Comics, that's the name of the character, saying, do not read this comic. To save the world, if you value your lives, do not read this comic. So we open up, because I'm a glutton for punishment, with Ultra Comics saying, hey, we made it, we're back, he's looking beaten up. And he's like, you, yes, you, pointing to the reader. Everything is from the viewpoint of the reader talking to Ultra Comics, and Ultra Comics, though he looks like a person, is literally the book itself. That is the meta-narrative you need to understand here. So he says, you, yes, you, don't go, don't leave. And he's like, look, I know you don't know me yet, but I know all of you. I came from 24 hours and 38 pages into the future, and the ultimate enemy is on my tail. So listen to me. If you choose to continue, you'll learn the story, but you'll also get to them, and they're using me to attack Earth Prime. So if you heard this comic is cursed, then you heard right. But whatever you do, don't look ahead to the end, or it's all over. And he's like, I believe we can still contain them, but as for the rest of you, don't turn the page. But then all of a sudden, he realizes that the Oblivion Machine, we're in it somehow, and it's all a trap, and that it was our eye all along that was watching. And he screams out, "Don't turn the page, don't turn the page." It's all turn the page, and there's just a man sitting at a desk, and he goes, "Ah, hello, glad I could get your attention. Anyway, yeah, that's just Ultra. Don't worry, he's just dreaming in his tank. But his experience, this entire experience that you're about to have, is real. I mean, I'm just a man on a comic book page. You shouldn't be able to hear me, but you can hear my voice in your head right now. You can hear me speaking. So we both agree that you are interacting with a real physical object, and you'll start to realize that this is not just any comic book." So we see that this book is different. It is alive, and it is a real superhero on this Earth. And this is Earth 33, which is our Earth, real life, this one now. And it's saying like, oh, we're setting up our superhero because the superhero is you. You will be helping our superhero in. We're being invaded from another universe, and we need all of your help to go meet our hero, the hero you're all going to become. And his name is Ultra Comics. And they tap a little microphone, and they pull up Ultra, who comes out of his tank, and he's being pumped full of different inks. Magenta, cyan, yellow, and black. And he is formed into a human being. And he's like, "Ah, yes, I'm made of cellulose and carbon, and I have wax on my pages and staples in my spine." And he's like, "Yes, I am Ultra Comics, designed to be the ultimate warrior for the very battle of our souls." And we see that he's getting an upload of all the superhero behavior from the Golden Age to modern comics. And we see exactly that. Golden Age issue where he's punching out a guy in an alley. Silver Age, he's fighting against some aliens. Bronze Age, we get a clear Crisis on Infinite Earths moment. And then Modern Age, where he's beating up a guy with like a hole in his chest in an alley, saying, "What are you looking at?" So he's got every single advantage, and he's got thought balloons going on. He's like, thought balloons are a little bit dated. How about I switch over to narration boxes instead? And so he just does that. And he says, "Yes, my origin story, I was created by meme smiths on Earth Prime, and this world doesn't have any flesh and blood superheroes, but I'm implanted with this little crystal in my forehead. That is God, they have a name for it here, the Ultra Gem, which allows him to coalesce with the reader's minds, all of them simultaneously, in order to bring him an ultimate power, an ultra power, as they say. So everyone combined is now we are Ultra Comics. And now that he's got his sentience, he's aware he's alive, he's ready to be sent out in the field. And is saying like, "Oh yes, Ultra, you, an idea so powerful that you believe that you're alive." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not really alive, but I could hear myself thinking. I swear I'm alive." And the scientists are sending him out, and they're like, "Oh, there's an emotional bond with the reader. We've done it. Let's send him out into his latest existential dilemma." And so they send him out into the world, and it turns out it's New York, but it is like completely destroyed and messed up. And it's just like, oh man, this is a problem. It's like a dream, some parallel world where the battle of good and evil has gone south. And then he goes more modern in his stuff, and he's like, "Oh, but I don't buy all that good and evil crap. You know, a civilian shoots a guy, he's a criminal, but if a soldier does it, he's a hero. Like, what is all that?" But then eventually they go over, they see this battlefield, and they see all these dead people. And there's a new narration box that pops in, and he's like, "Oh, think, man, with the multi-mind, think. The ultimate test is ready to begin. Ultra Comics beware." And then we cut back to the man in the chair, who now has bat wings spreading out from his chair. And he says, "Oh, there's still time for you to leave. You don't have to turn the page. You can set down the comic book now if you'd like, but you've already fallen into the trap." And Ultraman says, "Did someone say trap?" And so he starts plunging through walls, just looking for where he can do it. And he's like, "It's weird. My own voice sounds more natural now. It's us bonding. It's me being able to grow as a person." And then we're getting, as the reader, little pop-up boxes that say like, "Hey, don't forget, you've become part of this comic book in like a cross-time network. Maintain concentration to be able to keep things going." And as Ultra's like thinking about the voice in his head, he's like, "Oh, it's strange. I hear all these different voices. A boy, a girl, all different opinions." And then, I swear to God, reviews for different Grant Morrison books pop up in the book saying like, oh, same old pretentious symbolism. How about a simple adventure story for once? And then Ultra's like, you and me both. So he goes around and he finds a bunch of comic books spread across the grounds. And he's like, I don't understand it, though. You have all of this security on all your data and stuff like that. The borders of nations are patrolled, but you just let me into your mind without so much as a second thought, where you should be safe. And then all of a sudden he looks up and he sees this young girl who's, we find out later is named Red Riding Hood, is being attacked by a bunch of alien-looking, horrific versions of the Justice League. And she's trying to fight them all off, and she's just like, oh, someone please stop them. And in comes Ultra, who's like, oh, I've got this. And he starts punching out the Justice League, like burning them all. And she's like, oh, stop, that's enough. Come closer and I'll kill you. And he's like, I haven't moved. Anyway, what happened here? What happened to the world? And she's like, oh, you took out a couple of crawlies. No big deal. You just got lucky. And he's like, oh, well, I'll take out more than that if we run into any more. And she's like, oh, I don't need luck. I've got weapons on my side and a crew. And this whole crew of kids come out, all holstering weapons, and they claim themselves to be the neighborhood guard. And he's like, look, I appreciate that you feel responsible here, but your weapons can't hurt me, and I was sent here to help. And as they're saying that, they look up in the sky and see a whole bunch of, I'm trying to say, Rebo-Horizons drone droids, which are looking for the box. And this box is taped down to a tarp on top of a roof. And it's like, oh, so what do you guys want with the box? And I can sense with my Ultra Gem that it's got immense power, but I can go ahead and lift it for you. I can deliver it to wherever you need if I can speak with your elders that you mentioned earlier on. And he's like, yeah, I'm the only one who's going to be able to lift this. And so he lifts it up. He brings it exactly where they need it. And he sets it down. And he's like, oh, now any chance I could talk to some grown-ups? And he comes across a group of older-looking men, like about his age. And he's like, oh, you have no idea what it means to us. You brought us the box. Allow me to introduce myself. My name's Gerry Concord, but they once called me Ultraman. In fact, all of us were once called Ultra. And there's a bunch of different people in here, including like one half hybrid alien looking guy who just speaks in nonsense. And he's like, oh, well, what's this machine you're working on? It looks like a nasty one. And it's like, oh, well, Rebel Horizon took advantage of the chaos following the war. And he's like, yeah, what war? What's happening here? And he's like, oh, well, there was a battle between Tor and Epoch, Lord of Time. And when Tor's stronghold fell in 2240, the whole millennium went with it. So now there's no tomorrow, no yesterday. It's just now. And Ultra's like, that's insane. So at that point they're saying, yeah, we've got some unknown catastrophe. It's coming to face us. And he's like, okay, but like, what do you need the cube for? I'll do whatever I can, but like, what's up? And then one of the guys, Ultra, I guess, comes up to our Ultra and says, hey, check out this comic book. It's you. And he's like, well, I suppose that is how I look from the outside, but it's missing, me. And he looks behind this guy and sees a bunch of discarded comics, all like bent up and ravaged, amongst a pile of skulls. And he says, skulls? Wait a minute. Now I get it. You're all super cannibals. And everyone starts like coming in towards him, and they're just like, oh, yeah, the deformoids, the bug things, they're the ones that actually kept the box safe from us. But the Ultra King is the one who wanted it now. And now Ace Arn, our spaceman from the future, can explain what's going on. But first they grab hold of Ultra, they strap him into a machine, and they say, oh, the flesh of a super being, the Ultra King is always hungry. So as they strap him in, Ultra's just like, oh, what's the point? What is all this for? He gets zapped. He sees visions of like being judged by a bunch of different people in front of like a courtroom setting. And as this other yellow text box pops in that says like, oh, your humble narrator can... Wait a minute. Where's my voice coming from? Why is there another voice inside my head? What's going on? Can we please talk about this? Why is this happening? And then the narrator finally catches on, and he's like, don't worry, Ultra fans. It's not going all weirdness for weirdness sake. So then down the stairs comes the Ultra King, who introduces himself as like, oh, I was born on a distant doomed planet. My world, my universe. I'm Lord of Almarak, consort of the mighty Maxima. My name is Ultra, with 2 A's. And he's this dude with like a ponytail, and like, I know Grant Morrison's doing a poll here. I looked it up before. It's a guy from Another Earth 33 comic from like forever ago. I don't have time. So he comes up to Ultra and bites out the gem from Ultra's head. And he crunches it in his teeth as Ultra's thinking like, uh-oh, a destructive thought has entered my head, eating through my self-confidence. It's saying the same thing over and over again. I'm losing. Meanwhile, Ultra with two A's is like, oh, that's the trouble with you upstarts. You taste too good. You did well. I'll leave what's left for the flesh-eating children, but now that my box is here, I can finally get out of here. I can lead this half-world to its fate and head to my own spot. And he starts spinning around the cube, the transmatter cube, like spinning it around like a Rubik's Cube, when all of a sudden our Ultra speaks up and says like, oh, was I done with you? Did I say we were done? And he looks seemingly directly at the audience and says, yeah, you. I don't even have to get loose to take you down. But then Ultra with two A's responds. He's like, oh, I'm the Ultra King. You can't do anything. I'm so powerful. And our Ultra says, well, Ultra stuff can become anything you want it to be. It responds to thought. And my thought is that Ultra stuff, the thing that you just ate, is the most corrosive, explosive solvent in the universe. And so because he's thinking that, Ultra with two A's bends over and he just dies, because that's what the original Ultra thought. And meanwhile, because he was spinning around the transmatter cube, it starts lighting up. The dude picks up the Multiversity box and he's like, oh, the thing from the box. Ultra with two A's was the only thing protecting us from it. And then a new caption box pops up that says, oh, this is only silly comics. Makes no sense. Only pretend. Go on. Read on. What harm can come to you? And Ultra looks at us and he's like, oh, get out while you can. There's something in here with us. If you turn the page, it will see you. And then I turn the page and there's the giant bat creature, except it's an egg with an eye on it. And he says, oh, there you are. So Ultra busts out of his containment. He said, kids, run. This is all my fault. They used me to free that entity. Ultra Comics was just like flypaper. And so he gets blasted by the ultimate enemy, and he gets turned into an extremely old man. And he's like, oh, the gentry is within you. Kneel before your master. Turn the page. Do it, slave. And then I turn the page, and he says, oh, good. Now we understand each other. The gentry were drawn here because of your dreams, where once were palaces, now are charnel houses and brothels. Like, it's basically saying, we feed on your imagination. We take all that down, and nothing can stop us. And Ultra says, oh, I've got to do something here. Somebody buy me a little time. And Red Riding Hood attacks the gentry by throwing her staff into its eye. And as it starts like erupting with some energy, Ultra says, I have to make it back and restart. And he activates a secret power to go back to the beginning of the comic book where we saw him before, and he gets his youth back. Meanwhile, the kids are now left to fight against the ultimate enemy. And it's saying like, oh, do you know what is the Oblivion Machine? And she's like, hey, he'll come back. We believe in Ultra Comics and we demand a happy ending. And then Ultra Comics come back and he's fully healed. And he's like, oh, thank God I made it out of there in the nick of time. And they're like, hey, sorry we tried to eat you. And he's like, don't worry about it. We all make mistakes when we're young. Anyway, he names this thing as Intellectron. And he's like, when I said it was a trap, I meant that it was made for you. You've been eaten by Ultra Comics and you've been turned into text. And text can be criticized. And then more reviews of this book pop up in here from people saying, oh, seriously? A 5-dimensional evil egg? This is so stupid. Like, so Intellectron's just like, whatever, you mock me until you understand. Like, I will, the Oblivion Machine will continue to eat your precious mortal hours. So Ultra Comics realized, oh, wait, hold on, we may be out of our depths. This isn't going to work. Run, kids, get out of here. And as the world starts being torn apart by Intellectron, we get a new text box color that I'm not familiar with that says, think Ultra Comics, think. There was only ever one way to close the trap. And so we see him start to get enveloped by the Intellectron, and he's like, there's one less thing you have to do. Close the door and leave. Stop reading the book. And as he starts fading away, the text box says, oh, my friends and I Final Crisis, World Crisis, Cosmic Crisis, and then we start seeing the neurons that were inside of Ultra as he starts fading away. One by one, the neurons go out like stars in the sky, and when the last of it happens, this ends now. And then we get pop-ups to the reader that say, you are experiencing a potential infection, report to quarantine zone immediately, put the comic down now. And I'll honor its wishes. Oh my god. I mean, can it get more Grant Morrison than that? Can it really? Really? Like, it's a comic book that knows it's a comic book, that says it's a comic book, that tells you that you're reading a comic book, and then makes you a character in said comic book. I don't even know where to begin. Look, if you like this sort of meta stuff, then so be it. I personally think it's very creative. I actually really do like this, but like, explaining it and recapping it is impossible. It is absolute, like, unless I start doing something freaky with this video itself, there's no way to get across how freaky this book is just in concept. So I'm going to give this one, just on creative power alone, a 9. And like, anything based off of that is either going to go up or like ever so slightly down if this is just not your jam. But like, you got to admit, it's a creative idea. So yeah, that's Ultra Comics. Jesus. Batgirl Endgame #1, written by Brendan Fletcher and Cameron Stewart, art by Bengal. This is a tie-in to the Batman Endgame event, and it is an issue with no dialogue. So it is extremely fast read. So it turns out there's a Burnside Bridge, and because over in Endgame there's all the Joker zombie virus things going on, they've erected a giant wall to basically keep everyone from crossing this bridge, and Batgirl is one of the sole defenders of it. So she's looking out over the hordes of zombies. Turns out that there is a bus that was trying to make it to the safe zone, didn't end up getting there, so she has to be the one that goes in and helps everybody out. So she grapples over, gets into a nearby building, and as she goes in, she goes to a control room because apparently this building controls some like Times Square-esque billboards. So she flips them all on with the image of the Joker and some laughing on all of them. And I guess that makes all the Joker zombies huddle around the screens. They're so either entranced or angered by this screen that it allows Batgirl to have some time to get in there. So she gets a call from Frankie, who, as of the last issue of Batgirl, is now her girl in the chair, and says, okay, all the zombies are away. And mind you, when I say that, says this, it's literally just a thumbs up emoji and a screenshot of a bunch of Joker smiling smiley faces moving towards the bus. So as the bus is freed, she very quickly gets everybody off. She's sending anybody out. All of a sudden, the zombies start to realize, hey, wait a minute, there are people there. So they start charging towards. There's one man who looks like he isn't going to be able to make it over the wall, and Batgirl just comes in, punches the zombie guy out, and gets everybody up. So once everybody's up, they reveal that there is a vat of explosives that are going to blow the bridge to make sure nobody can get across. And Batgirl's like, well, Jesus, that's a bit extreme, and it's got like 10 minutes left. But as she looks back over the crowd, turns out there was a young girl who didn't make it off the bus. And she's now just crying on the rooftop. We see the mother is like freaking out, like, oh God, my girl, my daughter. So Batgirl's about to go grapple over again. And she's like firing her gun, but unfortunately does not have any hooks left. So she hops on the text with Frankie and says, hey, and again, says very strong, but basically gets the location of the girl and then uses that to find the cell phone that the girl has on her. So she sends a text to the girl and says, hey, look over here, look up at the wall, it's Batgirl. And then Batgirl basically mimes out to her, you need to fake a smile and you need to walk here very calmly. And she sends back like 3 crying emojis. She's like, I'm too upset, I can't do it. But she tries anyway. She gets down off the bus, she plasters on a grin. Batgirl's looking very intense as the countdown's still going down. And eventually the girl just Cannot do it. She breaks down. She starts crying. All the zombies start to pay attention. So Batgirl then grabs a mask and a backpack that we don't see the importance of until later, and she jumps her way through the crowd to make sure that, nobody can get their hands on the girl. She gets over to her, starts dragging her, not back towards the wall, but back towards the bus. So they all hop onto the bus, and Batgirl tries to steer it out of the crowd, ends up going over the edge of the bridge, and as they are falling off the edge, Batgirl manages to leap from the bus and activates her backpack, which it turns out has glider wings. So her and the girl just glide away safely. As they land, the bridge explodes, so Burnside, I guess, is safe from all the zombies, and the girl's reunited with her mom, and Batgirl just goes, phew. And that's it. That's the whole issue. It's a very fast read. In terms of tie-ins with the event, I mean, it is like the definition of tie-in. It is not needed for the story. It adds a little bit extra, ever so slightly. But even then, I would say that this kind of conflicts with what's going on in the main story, because we've seen Batgirl, doing things. She is in the center of the fight. I don't see why she would be over on the Burnside side of things, protecting her neighborhood when she's in the dead center of Gotham proper. But, it's not a bad issue. Be upfront about that. It isn't a bad issue. The art is fantastic. Bengal does a great job. It's a quirky little issue. Probably doesn't really need to exist, but I won't say I regret that I read it. So I'm going to say flat 7. And yeah, it's another Batgirl or another Endgame tie-in. Arkham Manor number 6, written by Gerry, Duggan, art by Shawn Crystal. This is the final issue of the series, and it kind of feels like everything was pretty much wrapped up last issue, but we did get the little tiny reveal of the one kid. I'm blanking on his name right now. It's Seth something, and he got out and killed his parents. So Batman has to go track him down. But we pick up this issue with Bullock talking to, I think it's Dr. Arkham. They never really say his name, but regardless, he's like, yeah, okay, so you got a bunch of missing inmates. Is there anything else we should know about? And he's like, yeah, go check the freezer. Go see what's going on in there. And Bullock goes in, immediately comes back out being like, what the hell is that? Talking about Clown Face. And he's like, I don't know, but it doesn't belong at an insane asylum. Get it out of here. And he's like, what, you want me to put it in normal jail? I have no idea what that thing is. He's like, I don't know. Do you have any other contacts? And he's like, yeah, all right, I guess I could call up Star Labs. I'll get them to come take it. Just Jesus, man. Meanwhile, Mr. Freeze is outside having a barbecue, because why not? We then see Alfred is calling Batman over the comms and saying, hey, I've got some news for you. And Batman says, look, I know this is about the house. I know this is about the manor. I don't want to hear it right now. I've got more pressing issues. And Alfred's like, okay, anything I can help with? And he's like, no, not right now. And we see that it's Seth Wickham, that's the name of the kid, who... he had schizophrenia, he got diagnosed in high school, and he's just had an awful time with his life since then. So Batman was saying how he's too late to stop Seth from killing his family, but he's making sure nobody else is going to die tonight because of him. So we see that because he was diagnosed in high school, Batman deduces that's where he's going to go back. He's going to exact some vengeance. We see the janitor is just running through the halls away from Seth, and Seth is just like, oh yeah, I did a lot of hiding in here too. Didn't help me. So as Seth is about to corner the janitor, do whatever to him, Batman literally blows a hole open in the school wall, and it just so happens to knock Seth away. And he's like, Seth, stay down. You are sick, and I am here to help you. And Seth is like, I don't know if it's fear toxin somehow, or if it's just his schizophrenia. I'm leaning towards the latter, but he sees Batman as this horrific bat demon who's coming in saying, let me kill you. And Seth starts screaming. He jumps in, tries to attack Batman. And Batman's like, I could easily knock him out right now, but he is mentally ill, and that's not what he deserves. So Batman just lets him fall, puts his hand behind his back and says, hey, I got it. And Seth's like, something happened to my parents. He's like, I know it did, Seth. I know. And he's showing a little compassion here. But he puts Seth back into the cell and sees he's getting some treatment back at Arkham. And he's saying, yeah, all the wounds and stuff he got over the course of the past few nights, they'll treat him there. But it's going to take a lot longer to figure out what's going on in his mind. But he's swearing vengeance on Batman, saying, oh, I was dead beforehand, but Batman brought me back. How dare he? So The other thing is that Seth's cell is the Joker's cell, or at least, 0801, the one that's typically reserved for the Joker. And he's saying like, oh, it doesn't matter. The clown knows I'm here. It's useless for me anymore. So he's saying, yeah, don't worry. Like, Seth will be taken care of. And then they also say that the dude who's living on the walls is also there, and he is tied up, and they're calling him the Spider. But the thing that's interesting him is that Dr. Arkham calls Bullock and says, hey, Jack Shaw, a.k.a. the guy that Bruce Wayne was imitating to get into Arkham, called me up, and he gloated how he escaped. Like, he wasn't even threatening me. He was just gloating. I'll let you know if he calls again. And Batman's just listening to this Arkham call because he tapped the phones. He's like, why the hell is he doing that? That works for me. It makes it easier for me to get back into the system again. But what is his game here? So we see that Bruce actually takes the time for the man whose identity he stole. He was buried out in the middle of like a no-name field, not even so much as a grave marker. He had the body exhumed and buried in a proper veterans military graveyard because it's the least he could do. So he gets a 21 gun salute. And as Bruce and Alfred are leaving, there's a paparazzi guy there who tracked Bruce down. And he's like, hey, what you doing here, Bruce? What's going on? How do you know this man? And Bruce called back being like, hey, you asked me the other night how my parents would feel about Arkham being like taking my family home. And the answer is, I don't know how they would feel. But you used to attack me for living in my father's home without like earning it, and now you're attacking me for being an embarrassed millionaire. So whatever story you're going to make out of this, leave me out of it. And you see the paparazzi being like, oh man, someone's calling me out on being a dick. So Alfred and Bruce drive back to the apartment, and Alfred's telling him, look, the paperwork to take back the manor, or at least challenge it in court, is right there next to you. All you need to do is sign. And Bruce is like, there's no proper place for these inmates to go yet. It's safer for Gotham if they stay in the manor for now. I hope that's okay. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm fine with that. Alfred is like, yeah, I can clean your apartment in like 2 hours flat. It's fantastic. So at that point he says, hey, and your sacrifice to this city knows no bounds. Your parents would be very proud of you. So we see Star Labs is loading up Clownface as Mr. Freeze is just reading a book out near an igloo. And inside the cell of Seth Wickham, Arkham seeing how he's apparently suffering a psychotic break because Seth is like laughing and crying because the Joker is going to know that he's in there. So the last sequence that we get is Arkham going to one of the group therapy sessions, and Scarecrow, Dr. Crane, is just like, oh, I slept like a baby last night. And Arkham's like, oh, and why is that? And Scarecrow says, oh, because the guy who was trying to kill us was caught. He's not going to try to kill us anymore. And Arkham almost looks upset. He's like, oh, yes, of course. Sorry. I need to step out for a moment. And he goes and steps out. And all the other group therapy people are like, hey, Scarecrow, he called you Dr. Crane. Did you notice that? He never does that. And he's just like, yeah, no, totally. Hey, by the way, guys, I've looked around the grounds, and you remember that pothole that Seth fell into before? I think the ground around here might be porous enough that we can dig our ways out. We can tunnel our way out and escape. And we see Batman is listening to Scarecrow say all this. He's got cameras in the room, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and try. And that's the issue. That's where it ends. We do have a Endgame tie-in. I believe that's coming out next week. But this is, for all intents and purposes, the final issue. I guess I get where this issue was coming from. Like, the entire buildup of the previous issues was this Spider guy, and we got that finished. And I thought there was going to be kind of this climactic blowout thing with Seth, and I don't know. I get that it's coming from more of a, some people are mentally ill, some people do actually require the asylum, like the medical aspect of it, rather than just treating it like a cage to throw them into. And I appreciate that aspect of it, but it does feel like this final issue is so extremely separate from the rest of the series because of that. It feels like this is not something that, I don't know, they intended on writing, or something got shifted along the way. It just feels very separate, all things considered. Maybe I'm missing like an overarching theme somewhere that this issue ties into, but it's very much a different thing. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a bad issue, though. It's okay. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a it's like a 6 for me. It's not even so much that this issue deserves a 6. This one's probably more like a 6.5 or so, but it's just the capper for a series, and it's kind of disappointing looking at the past 5 issues that we end on such kind of a mellow note where I think we could have at least built up into something a bit more interesting. Maybe the Endgame tie-in will do that. Maybe that is the official last issue where it's going to do something big, but all the other Endgame tie-ins have been a little bit lesser, so I'm not really expecting that from this. So gonna stick with the 6 rating, but it's not a bad series by any means, just probably not a action-packed Batman series that most people are expecting. Catwoman number 40, written by Genevieve Valentine, art by Garry Brown. So last issue we had Penguin getting involved with Black Mask and crew, while Selina, because they're 2 separate characters, took one of the Falcone men hostage in order to negotiate the end of this war or whatever. So the war is taking off. There's gunfire out in the streets. Everything's going crazy. We see Catwoman at the Egyptian casino. There's a whole running thing in this about Cleopatra having her empire taken from her by a Caesar, blah, blah, blah. And we see that, there's 2 Falcone men out there. They're ready to negotiate. And Selina's like, no, I said that Mason had to be the one that showed up because this dude's claiming to be my brother, and I want some answers, God damn it. So he basically said, yeah, kick them out. Like, we don't need any part of them. And if they don't get Mason here by midnight, I'm going to kill the remaining Falcone guy, because clearly they don't understand I'm not playing around here. So we see that Selina goes to the Calabrese house and meets up with Antonia, and it's basically like, okay, Mason should be coming for our guy any moment now. You need to leave. And she's like, what? Why don't you want me here? And she's just like, no, I'm not going to risk anything happening to the rest of the Calabrese family. You need to be out of here. And Antonia's pissed off, but it is an order, so she does end up leaving. And very annoyingly, Ward is there, who's like, hey, I know that's hard, Selina, but like, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this? And she starts listing off like, okay, we're going to take the Falcone guy. We're going to put him in the casino, double security. And then she says all the different stuff that's going on. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely following it. There's a bit too many families with just Italian-ish sounding names that are kind of blending together. But what I gathered is that she's using some of the smaller families as kind of a buffer so that the bigger families don't get too pissed off with their men dying and leave her. That's what I was gathering. So we see that she does meet up with actual Catwoman now. And they are talking to Lewis, the one guy who was kind of working with Penguin. And it's just like, hey, Lewis, I see you're getting home now. I'm going to go with you. And he's like, what? Oh, hey, Miss Kyle, you don't have to. And she's like, no. I'm going with you. So they go back, they meet up with Penguin. Penguin references over in Batman Eternal how he was sprung out of Blackgate by Catwoman, and it's just kind of fit into here, and she's like, oh yeah, thank you so much. And she's like, yeah, why are you siding with Black Mask, bro? What's all this about? And he's just like, oh, it's all just part of the bigger game, don't worry about it. And basically the long and short of their conversation is Penguin is not happy with what Black Mask is doing, but he doesn't see that Selina is going to win this, so he's just trying to side with, him. But he purposely baited out Selina because he knew Selina would come up with a better deal, a something that would side with him better. So now that she's sitting down, just like, yeah, no, we can figure something out. I want all of your soldiers on Forster Lane, which that was brought up earlier on. Again, it's a bunch of names and stuff. It's blending together month to month. But the long and short of it is that Penguin is like, yeah, all right, we'll do our thing. So we see Selina goes up and talks to Eiko and basically says, look, I can't have you being Catwoman right now. I need to be me and completely me if I'm going to survive this, okay? And I don't want you confusing our enemies, so I need you to stand down. And she's like, I can help you though. And she's like, don't. If anyone finds out what's happening, you are dead, or worse, you might be bait. So At that point, she's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm here if you need me. So she dives off. Selina calls up Ward and basically says, okay, let the Falcons have their man back. Like, just make sure they ask nicely. Make sure it's not like we're just giving them up for no reason. And I just want to let them know I was sending a message. So we see the fight's still continuing out on the streets. People are getting shot up like crazy. And Black Mask is like, oh, she's mocking us. The Falcons are beginning to talk about her mercy, and they're starting to side back with her. And now these other people are attacking. Everything's going crazy. And Mason's like, don't worry, I'll take care of Selina. So Mason goes off. Meanwhile, Black Mask talks to Ego, and it's just like, I recognize that you are more ambitious than you let on. I'm just hoping that you understand what side the Hasegawa family is actually on. And she's just like, I'm sure you see exactly how ambitious I am. Now, if you excuse me, I've got to go handle the battle that you got us into. So down by the docks, we see Alvarez and the partner there, I forget her name, is, tons of people are being arrested for all this gang war stuff. And one of them's being brought up and said, hey, this guy is a Falcone who was shot by another Falcone. Like, they were on the same side. Something's gone screwy here. And we realize that this is the Penguin's stuff, the guys that he's got in his pocket. He's sowing discord, making it so nobody knows who's on what side here. So Selina's standing over top on a rooftop hearing Alvarez and the partner talk. And I'm not entirely sure how they know this information. It might be through Lewis, but Mason was going back to the Calabrese house to deal with Selina, but they also found out that Antonia is going to be there. So she's now at risk because obviously Mason's willing to kill for that. So now that the wars are cooling off thanks to Penguin, she goes back there. She rushes as fast as she can. Mason's already got a gun to Antonia's head, and Mason's like, hey, you shouldn't have been here all alone. And then Selina comes in, kicks him in the face, says like, oh, she wasn't. So they start fighting. She gets shot in the leg. Meanwhile, Mason gets, as far as I can tell, kicked in the crotch. And she's got the gun. Selina's got the gun trained on Mason, just like, I'll shoot, I swear to God. And she's like, oh, you might. But she's bleeding out, and you need to tend to her. So Selina basically says, don't ever come back to Gotham or you're a dead man. And he's like, yeah, I'll be waiting for your call. So he leaves. We see Selina go over to Antonia, basically be like, hey, you're going to be okay. And she's like, I know it. It's a leg wound. No big deal. You should have gotten him. You still could get him right now. And Selina's like, look, I know you're pissed off, but the whole reason I sent you away is because if I were to die, if this got out of hand, I want you to run the Calabrese family. You are the one who deserves it. And she's like, not Mason. He's closer to you in like blood. And she's like, I don't care about that. You're the one who loves the family the most. So Ward comes in, starts taking care of Antonia. Meanwhile, Selina goes over to her vault, and she's got a Catwoman outfit on the ready inside her vault saying like, yeah, I got to tell them tonight. I got to tell them what's going on. I'll have to trust them once again. But Black Mask, look, I'll be honest, I don't understand this any monologue. It's Black Mask held a secret against us once. He won't get to do it again. This time, it's his secrets on the line. And then we see Alvarez and his partner getting a note from Catwoman saying, you're on the right track. I'll let you know who it's safe to trust. So we see Selina dressed up as Catwoman, keeping an eye on Black Mask. She waves hi to Batman, who's also on a nearby rooftop. And the last page we get is her jumping off and saying, oh, to the victor goes the spoils. And then some quote about Cleopatra once more. Okay. I like the political thriller like aspect of it. That's all super solid to me. However, this book was not meant to be read month to month. This is absolutely meant to be a sit down with the trade, get it all done at once. Because all of these names and alliances and everything like that, if you're trying to keep those in mind over the course of a month later, it just fades away. There's no way to keep track of all of it without just doing it all in one go. That's not to say it's bad. It is not a bad book, but it is absolutely not written with a standard comic release schedule in mind. So, with all that said, I think I'm probably going to end up saying that this one is unfortunately down at like a 7 for me, and that is still good. It's still a good issue, but it's not as great as I think it could have been if this were retooled just a little bit to make it more palatable for a monthly audience. Now, mind you, the monthly audience is long since gone. This is a 10-year-old book, so clearly everyone would be reading it in trade. But I'm trying to say, when this came out, this is how it was experienced, and I think it's just a little bit lacking in that regard. So 7 for this. We'll see if it improves over the next arc, but I at least appreciate the writing quality. Red Lanterns number 40, written by Landry Q. Walker, art by Jim Calafiore. So, last issue, Guy Gardner fought a baby who was infected with rage, and now he's got the baby with him. This issue is absolutely I had a 6-issue arc planned, but this is the final issue, so we're just going to kind of hyper-condense here. So we see throughout this issue cuts away to Guy going across America, coming across people infected with rage, fighting them very briefly, and then absorbing the rage from them. Just know that happens like every 3 pages. We get a little sequence of that. The other half of this is that he's talking to his sister, and I can't remember what the sister's name is. I know it starts with a G. And the sister's like sitting with a coffee with her, just holding the baby, and she's like, "You look terrible, man." And he's like, "Yeah, you wouldn't believe the stuff I've been through if I told you." And she's like, "Well, during that Third Army stuff, you sent me up into space, so like, I'm pretty open to whatever it is you're going to tell me." And we see more of him like fighting people and just like, "Look, I've went around, I've been seeing the whole world, that sort of thing." And she's like, "Yeah, why are you red now? Like last time you were green. What's going on here?" And he's like, "Look, no one even knows I'm in the costume. I got like a camouflage thing on." And she's like, "Well, that's not the point. I can see it. What's going on?" And he just lays down the whole series. Atrocitus came, he attacked the planet, infected it with rage, and I've been around, and there's everywhere, everyone has this red energy. I can feel all of it. We get another page of him fighting. And he's like, there's something that keeps on waking up in people. It's like this entity. But all of the entities, the previous entities, were essentially killed in the Lights Out event. They were used to refill the emotional reservoir, as it was. Whatever this is, it's trying to generate rage in the world. That's like what it's doing right now. And I'm trying to absorb it and take it away so that people can continue to live. And she's like, "That sounds stupid. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And he's like, "Look, I don't make the rules. It's the red light." And he's like, No. I know how the rules work. That's not the part I'm saying is stupid. And you're trying to save the whole world from being angry. Do you know how people are?" And Guy just stands up like, "You don't understand. This isn't just normal, like, stuck in traffic anger. This is something bigger. And I absorbed the rage of 100 Red Lanterns. I refilled the lake of blood." And she stands up holding the baby, just like, "Well, yeah, you turned into a pretentious jerk. Clearly. I get that. People are angry. Do you know how many people had their lives destroyed? Their friends were killed? I'm definitely among that number. And you just think you can come in and absorb everybody else's anger? That's not how emotions work, bro." And as he's looking down at his ring, it's like swelling with energy and whatnot. And he bends over, doubles in pain, starts spitting up blood. And she's like, "Oh, hey, you're sick. What can we do?" And he's like, "There's nothing you can do. You got to take the kid." And he presses a little button that I guess he had hidden somewhere. And all of a sudden, the sister teleports up into a ship out in low Earth orbit. And as she looks down at the planet out the window, we see that there are millions, if not billions, of little red dots that form the shape of the Red Lantern, like, sigil. And Guy's like, "Oh God, I'm past the point of no return. There's too much anger. There's too much everything else here. I thought I could cure the world, but it just made me angrier. And now the world wants all of that rage back and then some more. I don't know what to do, man." So we go back up to the pod, and there's a video of Guy before everything else made during the Third Army stuff. And he's like, "Hey, if you received this message, I put a tracker inside your body that will teleport you up into this escape pod, and it's blasting a signal out to Green Lantern Corps members to go take care of you, because the world's clearly not doing so hot." And he's like, yeah, I know you'll be angry with me. You're my sister. Whenever it was at its darkest, you were always there. I'm going to take care of you. Her name's Gloria. Just said it on the page. So, Guy's still doubled over. He's saying, oh, I can't win. There's no way I can't do it. And if I let go, the entity will never. And then he's like, no, I can't let it win. No matter what happens to me, I got to do this. So at this point, Gloria's ripping apart control panels as the video is playing on repeat. She eventually presses what ends up being a comm button and connects to Guy. And she's just like, what the hell is wrong with you? And he's like, I saved you. And she's like, yeah, save yourself, man. Whatever it is you're dealing with, like, you just deal with it. And she basically says, you can't just absorb the rage of the world. You've tried, it's not working. The only way to heal an angry world is to help it, to be able to get through that anger, not just take it away. So don't give up on the world. I need you. And then get me off the spaceship and pay for my coffee. So Guy's like, all right, yeah, the world's an angry place, but I'm a Red Lantern. All I know is how to fight with anger. So I gotta at least try. And he holds up his ring to the sky as this storm is brewing or whatever, and he pulls the original Hulk movie by Ang Lee. I don't know if anybody even remembers that, but just yells, oh, you want this? Take it all. And the energy starts spewing out of him enough that it's like singeing his skin, and it's just total pure emotional energy. And he's like, yeah, all of those emotions, all that's magic rings and stuff like that, it's just a matter of perspective. And one line that I skipped over at the beginning, I need to mention, is that he says, hey, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm colorblind. I can't tell the difference between any of these damn rings. Like, all of them are basically the same color to me. So as the red energy is flowing out of him, he's like, yeah, we all have anger in us, but the reason that we're able to get by is because we also have hope. And so his red energy starts turning to blue. It still goes up into this storm that's formed here because the storm's just sucking up as much energy as it can. It's like a newborn who's just trying to eat. So the energy goes up, and he says, my anger was impure, tainted by my humanity, poisoned by my hope. And as he expels all of his red energy, followed by blue energy, the red lantern ring falls off his finger, seemingly inert, and he says, I can end the plague of anger that Atrocitus infected my world with. So we get an epilogue, cut to some time later, where he's like, hey, sis, as she's back down on Earth, I can't pay for your coffee. I don't have any money. And she's like, all right, well, you can do it next time. And hey, you can stay with me or your brother, Gerard. And she's like, no, I think I should be seeing more of the world, you know? And Gloria's like, so what exactly happened there? Can we get like a definite, like, what happened? And he's like, I have no idea. And I'm not going to pretend to. It's these damn magic rings. I don't get it at all. But you know what? Whatever ring, whatever color, all that matters is what I do with it. And he's like, yep, that's what superheroes do. So we end off on a hopeful note. Guy's no longer Red Lantern, as far as we could tell. He's clean shaven again, shorter hair. I think he shows up in a Green Lantern miniseries post-Convergence, but yeah, no, it's doesn't make any damn sense. Look, it had to end this way. We, of course, had to end with Guy Gardner not being a Red Lantern anymore. And the only way to not be a Red Lantern is Blue Lantern energy. I got it. Cool. I get that. We also have the Future's End book, which does show him as a Blue Lantern. So it's a good little fade into that. But I also, like, every time the stuff is done, it cheapens the ones who came before, if that makes any sense. Like, the fact that humans are just able to wield any rings they want, yes, that makes humanity interesting or whatnot. But, like, we had Supergirl manage to cast off a Red Lantern ring, and everyone was like, that can't be done without a Blue Lantern. How did you do that? And then we just do it again here. And so it kind of cheapens that earlier stuff by saying, oh, turns out that anybody who hopes at all is able to cast off a Red Lantern ring. And it's like, well, that doesn't seem that hard. But, maybe I'm a human. Maybe I'm biased. So, I don't know. These last three issues, I appreciate the fact they went back and they handled the whole, Atrocitus infected the Earth, and there were consequences to that. But it just felt like they were never going to be able to get done a full, interesting story arc. It was always going to be truncated by the fact they had to stop at issue 40. So, I think this one's probably just going to be like I'll say a 6 for me. It's just, I see what they were going for. I just don't think it landed. It just was its own thing. And honestly, I probably would stop reading Red Lanterns at issue 37 for anyone else that's like interested. I don't know if that's a great ending point, but these last 3 issues just raise more questions than answers. So yeah, 6. Sinestro number 11, written by Cullen Bunn, art by Geraldo Borges and Brad Walker. So last issue, we had Sinestro all tied up by Mongol, and then he called his corps, and as it looked like they were losing, in comes Becca from the New Gods, who he had hinted at being a member of the corps before. And we see Mongol. He's got a bunch of space pilots flying around ships outside. He could have them piloted by AI, but he uses pilots because, screw it, it doesn't matter to him. But because of that error and Becca's powers to make anyone basically fall for her, the pilot turns off all of his weapons and is just like, oh, for your love, and then he explodes as Becca attacks. So Becca joins into the fray. They start attacking as many of Mongol's people as they can, and Sinestro, who is talking to... God, I can't even remember his name now. I think it's like Venom something. This member of the Opus group is just like, oh, I can feel them outside. They're doing quite a bit out there, vibrations and whatnot. And Sinestro's like, yes, you'll feel it a lot more when I rip World apart. And he's just like, yeah, you amuse me. You're tied up, but like it seems like you've got mastery over confidence more than fear. And Sinestro's like, mastery over the latter causes mastery over the former. But hey, why do you trust Mongol? And this was a conversation we had last time. And Sinestro basically comes down being like, if you look around this place, you're going to find that Warworld has an entire system for devouring and mulching planets in order to conquer more planets. Do you really think that he's any different from the Paling, that emotional nothing group that's attacking people? And he's just like, I mean... why would I trust you? You spread terror across the universe. And Sinestro's like, of course I do. But you don't understand what terror means. And Sinestro basically says, why can we be good guys? And it's that when you're scared, you are forced to do things. You are forced to go after things that you want. You're forced to take action. You can feel alive again. When if it's properly apprised, fear can be a force of righteousness. And we see all the guys attacking Mongol's men. And Mongol is inside looking at them all, just being like, look at them. They think they're actually doing something here. One day, very soon, I'm going to be taking back over that Lantern Corps. And he turns over to the rest of the Opus group or whatever their names is and is just like, all right, let's go take care of them. So the planet, once again, charges up its little wave of draining energy, and it hits all the Sinestro Corps members. Their power levels start dropping like a rock as Mongol and like the 3 other guys come out and just like, all right, give me your rings. They're my rings now. And Arkilla's like, you bastard, you tried to lead us before, and you suck. You're not going to do it again. And he's like, oh, Arkillo, shut up. And so they continue fighting as power levels still dropping. We see the like constructs. People start getting slashed by Warworld's soldiers and this Opus group. And as Arkillo's in a headlock from Mongol, he's just like, oh, what a shame that Sinestro surrounded himself by such pitiful creatures. And in comes Becca, who slashes Mongol across the face as her Sinestro energy fades away. And Mongol's like, all right, you got in one good hit, but you don't have any yellow energy anymore, so you're no match. And Becca's like, bro, I don't need that. I'm a freaking god. And so she puts on her helmet, charges back into the fight, and Mongol's just like, you're going to make a good concubine when I'm done breaking you. So, it's not Opus, it's Apex League, my bad. So, the guy inside Sinestro's chamber is just like, look, even if you're telling the truth about Mongol, we struck a bargain, we can't back out now. It's whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. And Sinestro's like, oh, I'm sorry. You seem to be thinking that, like, I'm begging you to release me and, like, whatever else. I'm not begging. I'm giving you the chance to change your mind before I change it for you. And in that moment, the other Yellow Lanterns come in. They avoided the energy drain blast somehow. And it's Soranik and the other ones, whatever their names are. And they take out the guy from the Apex League. Venomous Shade, that's his name. And as they're about to choke him out, Sinestro's just like, hey, don't he's virtuous, he's noble, whatever like that. And as Sinestro stands over top, he's like, see, I know how to be merciful. And at that point, one of them, Des, whatever his name is like, hey, Sinestro, why didn't you use Parallax to get out? Surely you weren't afraid that Mongol could drain the fear entity out of you, right? And Sinestro just turns to him and looks and be like, shut up, Des. So he grabs hold of Venomous, yeah, that's his name, Venomous Shade, and it's just like, now, tell me where I can find Lissa, and then take me to the control room, because I'm going to go show Mongol what for. Meanwhile, Beck is still continuing the fight against Mongol, but she does, she's on the ropes a little bit. There's in more even fight. She uses her powers to take some of Mongol's men and turn them against him. The Apex League is now fighting against Mongol, and it distracts him just long enough for Becca to drive her sword straight through his chest. Doesn't seem to slow him down, though. She gets batted away, but he is all of a sudden a little bit injured as Sinestro comes out with Lissa, and so the entirety of the core gets back up to 100%. And Mongol's like, oh, you reversed the siphon, didn't you? And Sinestro's like, oh, clearly you didn't underestimate me, right? So the entire Arquillo and the rest of the core turn to the Apex League and be like, all right, we're going to kill them all in like 3, 2. And Sinestro's like, hold on. And he uses all of the yellow rings to take some metal plates and boxes in Mongol so that he can't escape. And he coats the metal plates in the yellow rings of the Fallen. And he's like, you want the rings so badly? Here you go. And he sends the yellow rings flying off at Mach speed across the universe, leaving Warworld alone. And he turns to the Apex League saying, you guys want the Church of the Paling? They're going to go after that big-ass beacon of emotional energy that Mongol's attached to. Go track him down. You'll be sure to find them. And they're like, all right. So they all fly off. Becca turns to Sinestro being like, hey, I don't appreciate being summoned. And he's like, hey, it wasn't a forceful thing. You came because you wanted to. Just like I didn't have to come here, but I wanted something. And he turns to the entire core and just like, all right, everybody, welcome to Warworld, the new home of the Sinestro Corps. So, yeah. I like it. I appreciate the way that Becca was used here. I think that's something I've been waiting for a while. I was kind of a bit tentative with the little hint they gave of her last issue, but they used her as a proper... I was going to say Deus Ex Machina, but she literally is a god, so it's just the god of the gods. Yeah, no, you're getting the Sinestro Corps onto Warworld, solid idea, sending Mongol off, it's a nice little change of the status quo that I think makes sense for the characters, because obviously they couldn't just stick around on New Korgar. So, yeah, no, it's a solid issue. I'm going to give this one a 7.5, and I believe there's an annual next week, but I'm sure that'll just tie into everything else that's going on. So 7.5 for this. Aquaman number 40, written by Jeff Parker, art by Paul Pelletier. So last issue, we had Aquaman arrive, meet his mom. His mom didn't believe that was a son, and they almost sacrificed him to a lava god. And then the lava god got pissed that he didn't get his sacrifice. So this issue picks up with the soldier forces of Atlantis all being swirled in a huge water bubble made by Mera to protect them from Karaku, the volcano god. And the member of this island that they have here, that I believe is called Pacifica, is like, oh yeah, the only reason we've been allowed to live on this island is because Karaku didn't mind that there were so few of us, but you just brought an entire invasion force from Atlantis, so Karaku's a bit pissed. So at that point, we see that the woman has a vision that the fire trolls follow the will of Karaku, and the Atlanteans battled him a long time ago, and she's able to show this vision to the other people and show that Karaku was actually fought into submission by the Karaquan, which is from 13 issues ago. But yeah, that was the whole reason the Karaquan existed. So we see that Stephen Shin and the other guy are looking at her as her eyes glow purple and just being like, you're the reason that we don't have any of this lost knowledge. They hid it inside of the purple-eyed Atlanteans and just made it basically random access where you don't know what memory you're going to get, but it is still stored inside of you. Meanwhile, Aquaman's calling out to his mom, being like, "Hey, I can't keep the Karaku at bay. It's its whole thing." And we see Atlanta's like blasting it, doing whatever she can, but it is her giant fist coming down, about to land on her. And Aquaman jumps in, punches the fist away, and grabs his mom. And Atlanta's just like, "Get away! I don't need your help." And he's like, "Too damn bad." So they both land back in the water. The guy Evans comes up and says, "Hey, the purple-eyed lady said how we can defeat the fire trolls." And immediately he gets grabbed up by a fire troll and his spine just snapped in half. And Aquaman punches the fire troll out, but ultimately Evans ain't going to make it. So they have a moment where he comes over just being like, "Oh, hang on, Daniel, you're going to be okay." And he's like, "No, I'm not. But look, you can still save the day. You got to hear what the woman had to say. You hit him with water and you bash their heads in. That's how you take out the fire trolls. Thank you for letting me see Atlantis." And he just dies. And as Atlanta's watching on, just being like, well, he's taking a break in the middle of battle to go mourn a dead soldier. That's going to cost him. In comes the giant fist, and it just squashes Aquaman. And Mara freaks out, like, "Oh God, Arthur!" And everyone else is just like, "Oh, nobody could survive that." And someone says to Atlanta, like, "Hey, maybe you should try to help him if he truly is your son." And Atlanta just like snaps her head around, like, "That is not my son. Do you not remember how treacherous Atlantis can be? For God's sakes, stop it." So, meanwhile, as that's all happening, we see that the water starts to morph and shake, and Mara is using her power. But everyone's like, "Oh my God, is it a god, another water god?" And Atlanta's like, "No, that's a queen." As we see Mara use as much power as she can to essentially quench or protect the people from the Karaku. So as Aquaman is actually okay once the fist gets lifted off of him, we see that Atlanta comes in riding a dinosaur and saves the sun. And he's like, "Oh, Atlanta." And she's like, "Don't think this is an Atlantis. You are an alliance. You and I are even now." And says, "Yeah, you've got a hell of a queen up there." And Aquaman looks up and just being like, "My queen?" Is like, "Oh, Mara, awesome." As she's using like a water mech at this point. So Atlanta's impressed. Everyone else starts to run. They get their way out, but it turns out the fire trolls are inert. Like, they took out the Karaku because of Mara's incredible power. But she does lose the form eventually. She falls back in the water. Aquaman catches her, and he's like, "Oh, you did it. You're amazing. You're so great." Meanwhile, Atlanta comes up with her army of dinosaurs, just being like, "Look, I don't trust you still. I know that you are here for treacherous reasons, and if people are going to say that I'm dishonorable for attacking you guys when you're down, so be it, but I have to protect my people." So she's about to attack them, and he's like, "Oh, fair enough." She's like, "What? A queen killing a king? That's appropriate, you think?" And he's like, "No, you brought me into this world. You're taking me out." And she's like, "For the love of God, don't you dare say my son and my husband were dead. Don't ever say that you are them again." And he starts doing his little voo powers, calling up fishes. And she's like, "No, you know I am. There's never been an Atlantean named Arthur before. And like, you wanted him to name me with an A name to carry on tradition and whatnot. You know it's me. I could show you pictures, but you'd say they were fake. But I can show you something that I can't fake. And it's a power that only the Atlantean rulers inherit. And it's summoning fishes." So he summons all of the aquatic creatures from this alternate dimension and says, like, "There, I've got them. All the ocean life answers to me. So do you believe me, Mom?" And she's like, "Oh God, Arthur." And we get a little moment where Arthur's like, "I get it. When I came after you, when I found out you might still be alive, I thought it was the you that I remembered. The soft-spoken, like, perfect mother and all that. But you went through a lot that I was not privy to, and you kind of had to throw away that old life, that old you. So I recognize you're not my mom anymore. I don't expect anything of you. I'm just happy to know that you're alive. We will leave your island now." And she's like, "Thank you so much." And then she just Life Supper Scepter opens up the maelstrom, sends everybody through. So everyone steps out on the other side. And, you know, Shin's like, "Oh, I'm so, all this happened and Daniel died. I'm so upset." And he's just like, "Hey, we did our best. We did everything we could. And maybe I got a little bit carried away with the whole mom thing. This is more on me than it is on you. But the portal opens back up again. And out comes Aquaman's trident, which he didn't take with him for whatever reason, along with a belt with the Aquaman A, which he says is his mother's signet, and then a little shell thing, the shell of sounds, which Mara recognizes and says, yeah, hey, that's the thing you want to use. It's like a voicemail. Just think answering the voicemail. And so it comes to life and says, Arthur, you left this behind. It's proof that you are who you say you are. I mean, more so than just like an Atlantean royal. You were willing to leave behind your trident. No normal Atlantean would do that. You must be something special. Also stupid, so here it is back again. Anyway, I'm giving you my signet. It's imbued with my energy. It'll make sure that Atlantis recognizes you as the actual true ruler, so you don't need to worry about that. And by the way, don't tell anybody I'm alive, including Orm. If Orm ever asks, just say I'm still dead. Maybe if I come across him eventually, I'll let him know myself. Okay, happy to know my son's okay, and he's been changed for the better. So, smiling happily up at that, the end. I'll admit, it didn't go the direction I thought it would. I thought for sure the mother would have to sacrifice herself to the Kara, or whatever this name is. It's good. It's an alright story. I don't know. It's so weird because this is a fundamental status quo shift. To know that Aquaman's mother is still alive, but is in another dimension that theoretically they could go to any time they wanted. But they don't. It's just yeah, don't worry, we're just going to leave you alone over there, and we're just never going to bother you again. Maybe the next couple of issues before we end New 52, we'll get back into that. Maybe there's a post-New 52 story that deals with the fact that that was a thing, but it's so weird because I'm pretty sure most people just still treat her like she's dead. And I guess they gave themselves an out by saying, don't ever talk about it again, but it feels kind of important, So yeah, it's an all right end to the issue. It went a different direction than I expected. I think having it end with just the lava god gets wet and that's enough to kill it is a little weak. And nobody's ever tried that on an island in the middle of water before, but to each their own. I'm going to say this one's a 7.5. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable arc, but I think that for all the stuff that it did to begin with the different setups of the psychic people throughout the DC universe, it kind of felt like it just was wasting time at the beginning, and the last 2-3 issues was really all you needed. So, yeah, it's not a bad arc, but this issue's a 7.5. The Flash, number 40, written by Robert Venditti and Van Jensen, art by Brett Booth. So last issue, the current time Barry Allen, currently stuck in the Speed Force, is about to be sacrificed by one of the people that he thought he could trust so that guy could get Speed Force powers. And then in the real world timeline, future Barry Allen is about to kill Overload and just got spotted by Patty and Iris, who are not too keen on that. So we follow up with the future version first. And I'll just go through his whole story. It intercuts a little bit. He's attacking Overload. Overload flashes back at him as he's unable to do anything because he was surprised by Patty and whatnot. And Patty is just like, oh my god, Iris, Flash is going to kill that bad. You're right. He's totally evil. He's a murderer. And Iris is like, yeah, you're right, but we gotta protect people. This guy's clearly a danger. So they try jumping in the way, which distracts him just long enough for Flash to come in and punch Overload in the face. And he's like, yeah, we called you Overload. I never caught you, but I studied your victims. You caused their electronic devices to explode. That's how you killed people. And Overload tries blasting him with his power, but Flash says, yeah, I designed it to resist your stuff in case I ever found you, so there's nothing you can do. And he's like, but I can hear something that's electric, a little tick, tick, tick. And we see that the little time circuits or whatever he has on his wrist are able to be exploited, so his hand fully explodes off his body. And Patty comes in just like, oh my god, Barry, your hand. And he's like, hey Patty, look, I'm not the real Flash, I'm not the real Barry. I mean, I am, but I'm from the future, and I came back, I wanted to fix things, but I made things worse, I'm so sorry. And Patty's like, I have a million questions, but first off, where's the real Barry Allen? So we intercut with that story, but I'll just do the future Flash stuff first. And he's like, look, I loved you so much. When I had the chance to get things right, I knew I had to stay, but I betrayed you, and I see that now, and I wish I could go back and change all the damage I caused. And she's like, well, you can't, but you can act like a hero and go stop that guy without killing him. So Flash is like, okay, the Wi-Fi towers in the city is giving him power. Like, I can't stop him as long as that's active. I need to do something to disrupt the signal. So his future suit makes him a robot hand, because it just can do that. And then he runs in to the crowd, and as Overload is like, oh, why won't you Joe? And everything slows down as Flash goes and gets everybody's phones and starts texting, taking selfies, browsing the internet, and just goes to everybody's mobile device and is doing as much as he can on each of them. And we see the Wi-Fi towers are unable to deal with all this simultaneously, and by the time that he's saying, why won't you just die? He's lost all of his powers. And he's like, what? Oh my God, I don't hear the buzzing. My powers are gone. And he's like, yep, I just exploded our entire Wi-Fi network by trying to send too many signals all at once. Your power source is gone. And Overload's like, thank you. It was killing me. I hated it. It was miserable. I thought you said you wanted to kill me. Like, geez, this is great. And Flash just falls to his knees. He's just like, I'm not that man anymore. So, picking back up with Flash and the Speed Force, we see that he's tied up to like the sacrifice table. Selkirk standing over top of him with a whole dagger and cloak thing going on. And he's like, oh, you said you would help me. You gave me your word. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to help you get your powers back. And I'm going to take them for myself. That's how this is going to work here. And the reason that everybody else in the village is like willing to help me do this is because they think I'm going to give them part of the powers too. But I'm just going to bail. I'm just going to leave the Speed Force and leave them behind. What are they going to do about it? So he says the magic words, and the lightning comes down. It strikes Barry. The energy starts going crazy haywire everywhere, and Selkirk's just like, oh, it must feel so hard to contain all of that. Just let it out, buddy. Let it out into me. And this rogue energy force spurts out, hits Selkirk in the face, and just like eviscerates half of his face, like full Two-Face going on. And he falls to the ground, and he's like fully, seemingly dead. We find out unconscious. And Flash manages to get up off the table, and he's like, oh, Selkirk, look what you did. I would have helped you. I would have helped everybody. But hey, you made me fast again, so thanks, I guess. And he runs off, and he's ready to open up the barrier to the Speed Force, get back to his city, and we see Selkirk's body just start to vibrate, or at least one half of his body. So he goes back out and through the portal. Back in Central City, we see Future Flash talking to Patty, and he's like, hey, I could have killed him, Patty, and like you helped me see that I was on the wrong path, so I can be the man that you want me to be. And Patty's like, Are you seriously trying to backpedal on murder? Are you kidding me right now? You may have been the Flash, but like the man I loved is gone. And then the portal opens up and Current Barry comes out and they spot each other. They're like, what's going on? What have you done to my city? And Future Flash is like, hey, look, I've been through a crisis of conscience. I realized what I did was wrong. If you want to do whatever you're going to do, just do it. I'm out of this. And he looks over at Patty and is just like, Patty, what's this guy talking about? But then all of a sudden Selkirk comes out. And he's just like, oh, I've still got power, Flash, and I'm never going to let you get away. And they're immediately, Patty and Future Flash are like, who the hell's this guy? And it's like, whatever, let's just go deal with him. So Future Flash and Current Flash team up trying to fight Selkirk. But Selkirk has been studying the Speed Force for so long that he's able to outthink the Flash. So Flash tries to do some fancier stuff. He's throwing like rocks at him at bullet speed. Selkirk's just throwing him out of the way. As Selkirk's throwing them, a few people get into danger. So Barry realizes, oh, let's get this out of town. Let's get out of here. So he grabs Future Flash. They start running away. Selkirk's like, oh, you're so predictable. And as they make their way deep into what seems to be a jungle, Future Flash is like, hey, look, the Speed Force won't handle two of us here. If you keep on rubbing up against me, it's going to cause another massive explosion, the one that like killed Wally. And Barry's just like, no, I want to cause something bigger. We can't let Selkirk go free. And Future Flash is like, okay, well then give the energy to me. I can do it. I'll make sure it happens. So Barry's like, no, man, we can share it. Like, this doesn't have to be a thing. You're already injured. And he's like, no, I have messed up here severely. I do not have any more will to go on. This is where I can own up to it. So he takes the energy. He runs up to Selkirk and he's like, hey, Selkirk, you know your problem. You think you got nothing left to learn. And he causes a big Speed Force explosion, which seemingly knocks Selkirk back into the Speed Force. And as Future Flash lays dying in the middle of the crater, he's like, hey, Barry, I'm sorry, I was so arrogant. It's just vengeance and whatnot. That's all in my head. Look, I never caught Mom's killer, but I did get a clue, and you need to know it. You have to remember Thawne. And then that Barry fades into energy as the other Barry's like, okay. So we cut to later, and Barry gets back home to Patty, and just like, oh, Patty, the only thing I ever had going for me was the thought of getting back home into your arms again. I really needed that to get me through. And Patty's like, I'm leaving. I look at you, and I just see him, and he was a murderer, and I can't do this anymore. Bye. And so she ends up leaving. We then cut back into the Speed Force, where Selkirk is paralyzed now. He's unable to run. And he's like, oh, all that effort, all that planning and whatnot, it was all for nothing. And we see one of the guys that he was teamed up with before picks him up and on the command of someone else. And someone else says like, oh, you can't even begin to comprehend the power you claim. But don't worry, Professor Zoom will teach you. And we see it's Thawne. He's here. At least it's probably Thawne. I know there's like 3 Zooms and Professor Zooms. I'm assuming this is the one we just got the hint about. So, okay, I like that future Barry was redeemed. I think that he had to die. Like, there's no way that he could just go back to his normal time, or like, I guess I was looking more for like a timeline fading away sort of thing, like a Back to the Future, like, oh, things are too different, I'm too not locked in, goodbye. But sacrificing himself to get rid of this other villain, okay, it works. The overload thing was kind of a letdown. It seems like a very, very simple way to beat this guy. And in all honesty, it wasn't even really beating him. Because, like, he's going to be taken to a police station that's going to have some level of power in it. And, like, that's it. He gets his power back. Like, I don't know. It just seems like that wasn't actually a win. It was just we momentarily drained him. So there's a couple of things wrong with this from just a writing perspective, but I'm sure they just had to wrap up what they were doing, get it done by issue 40. So I'm going to say this is honestly, I probably would give it a 7, but I'm just still not a fan of the art. And as much as that last page kind of is just like, okay, all right, we can do something cool here, I don't know. I'm just a little bit lukewarm over the past, like, what has it been now, 12 issues with this whole like Future Flash thing, and it just wraps up so quickly. I'm going to give this one a 6.5. I don't think it really gets above that. It's not a horrible issue. It just doesn't quite hit good for me. So we'll see if Flash improves on the way back. I am always up for some Reverse Flash. We'll see if that turns out well. But yeah, 6.5. Infinity Man and the Forever People, number 9, written by Dan DiDio and Keith Giffen, art by Keith Giffen. So, last issue, Big Bear was talking to this computer, and then Infinity Man said, hey, we only got 1 issue left. I'm gonna tell you my origin, because I always meant to get around to that. So, the entire first, like, 4/5 of this issue is just the origin. And it's, all right, Big Bear, you said you needed answers, and I need your help. That's what you said, so I'm going to tell you what's up. And we see him saying, like, oh, yes, you know about Darkseid, all that stuff. I need you to understand this story that kind of tangentially involves him. So we follow 2 parademons that are talking to each other as Infinity Man's just talking about Highfather before he was Highfather, saying, yes, his name was Isaiah, and he was a gentle soul, and he loved everyone around him, and he cared very deeply about when people died. And Big Bear's just like, that's not, Highfather's a dick. Highfather doesn't care about nobody but himself, and he's cold and calculating, and he's not a good person. And there's like, yeah, okay, don't worry about it, getting to the story. So we see these parademons carrying a big bag, and they're talking to each other, and it's very quickly apparent that they are actually new gods. They are cloaked. One of them is Highfather. We don't actually know who the other one is yet. And it's like, oh yes, this parademon infestation here on New Genesis. We've got to take it out. That's why we brought along this giant-ass bomb. We're going to fly in, dressed as parademons, put it in their food supply, and then it should explode everything. So at that point, one of them says, oh, you know, you got to hand it to Darkseid. This infestation is pretty good. And it's like, I'm sorry, are you, like, saying good things about Darkseid right now? Seriously? So they fly in. Eventually, they pass by a little bubble thing that says, oh, unauthorized presence detected, initiating anti-cloaking procedures. And then their disguises fall away. And it was like, ah, crap. We've been made. Toss the bag. Its timer has already started. Let's get out of here. And so they start getting shot at. They fly away. Again, I don't know who the other guy is. I don't think he's even supposed to have a name. But regardless, he gets hit and knocked down. He's immediately attacked by all the rest of the parademons as Isaiah is making his way out. And he's like, there's no time to get away unless. And he spots some air ducts and he flies inside of them at like Mach speed. And he's like, all right, I got to get out of here unless I want to be a chunk of parademon debris. And as he manages to escape from the hive, the nest, whatever it is, the entire nest explodes in a fantastic show of light. And Isaiah's like, that's one for us if you're keeping count. But as the nest explodes, it's on New Genesis, so it leaves a giant-ass crater. And Infinity Man's narrating saying, oh, back then he cared so deeply about all of this stuff about his planet and creating these scars, it upset him deeply. And he's looking over it. And then Hyman comes in saying like, hey man, why are you so worried about the planet? Like, we live up above it. Like, this planet's long gone for us. There's nothing here for us anymore. And he's like, don't remind me of the devastation that we brought here. And Hyman's like, well, I could hide it with an illusion. Is that what you want? And he's just like, no, it's not. Shut up, Hyman. And so Hyman's like, look, this war could end tomorrow. You know the deal. You know what you have to do. And we can end this war. And he's like, oh, he's asking for my child. Darkseid wants us to trade children. What is that what I'm supposed to do? My dead wife. That's all I have left of her. My Avia. What am I supposed to do? And Hyman's just like, look, this is your war, man. Your grief made this. You have to be the one who ends it. And Isaiah's just like, oh, yes, my war. So we then cut over to the source wall. This was a long, long time ago, so it's not as bad as it was. And there's actually a chunk of the source wall that is like the old, like, okay, the source wall always existed, but it didn't exist in the form of a bunch of giant-ass gargantuan beings, the old gods, all strapped to it and turned into rock. This is an obelisk, a piece of the original source wall. And so it's like where everything is thinnest, and Isaiah teleports in, and he goes to talk to the wall. And he's basically saying, like, look, you've helped us through before to take out the old gods. You've been a guidance source. I need you to talk to me. Tell me what's up. I can't sacrifice my kid. I can't go send my child to go live with Darkseid. It's too much. I demand you answer me. And the wall like writes back saying, you would petition for a choice. The future is set. Everything you'll do is set. You can't change anything else. And as I was just like, it's too much. I cannot. How am I supposed to live with myself? The torments would be maddening. I can't do it. And the source wall says back, you've come too far. You've done too much. You are of the source. You will do what must be done. And with that, a giant blast of energy comes out of the source wall, hits Isaiah, and he falls down. And a voice comes over top of him that looks like Highfather, looks like Isaiah, and says, from here on out, you will be called Highfather. You will no longer be Isaiah. You will hate the name, but you won't know why. And you will accept the deal. That is what you will do. And I will keep Avia's memory pure inside of me, and I will mourn for what may have been, and all of this if you were just a bit stronger. And we see that the, I don't know, Force Ghost version, whatever you want to call it, of Isaiah, then leaves, turns into Infinity Man, and Infinity Man reveals, I am Isaiah's consciousness. I am, well, not conscious, his conscience. I am the what he sacrificed to have to be able to end the war. He separated out his own conscience, and I'm the believer of right and wrong and all that stuff. He is the cold calculating what's left is Highfather. So that is what I am. And the tape pauses and it cuts back to Big Bear and Infinity Man. And he's like, what, that's it? And he's just like, yes, that's my origin story. He's like, I don't believe that you're the other half of Highfather. That doesn't make any sense. He's like, yes, and that is why I must go to New Genesis. And it's just like, okay, well, how do we and the other Forever people all fit into this? And it's just like, you had the mother box, but I don't really need that anymore. So, you're still kind of a part of this. And Big Bear's like, yeah, that doesn't really feel like we're a part of this. I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to the other people. I'm going to let them know what I just found out here. And it's like, oh, are you sure? You sure you want to do that? Are you sure you can trust them? And he's like, yeah, I can trust them more than I can trust you. Infinity Man's like, okay, well, just know that you're going to keep on intertwining here. We're destined to keep meeting up. That's what we're doing. And then it just says, to be continued elsewhere in the DC multiverse. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Infinity Man is Highfather's conscience. This feels like they wrote the outline to the story and like that was the central note card. That was the central, like, this will be the big reveal. When we get to the end of it, we're going to say, like, Highfather was split in twain in order to sacrifice his own son. It's what needed to be done to end the war between Apocalypse and New Genesis. And, like, in concept, that sounds like a cool idea. But then they ran out of story. And they were like, well, crap, we still need to put this big reveal in there. We were going to set it up to be this whole big thing. All right, guess we'll just throw it in here now. And it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Highfather was barely even a part of the past 8 issues. They kept talking about him. They kept saying, like, oh, Highfather's been doing all this and all that. Bro, Highfather's more in the Green Lantern book than he was ever in this book. So yeah, the series is kind of just a letdown overall, much like everything that Dan DiDio has kind of done. The only one, I think he started out on Phantom Stranger. That one was okay, but like all this Jack Kirby stuff that he tries to do, he tries to stay so faithful to the Jack Kirby stuff, not realizing that we are 50 years later, like anyway. This has been a frustrating read. It felt like none of the issues really tied into each other, and whatever larger story they had planned was ultimately dashed by the fact that no one was buying this book. So I'm going to say this one's honestly, it's like a 5. It's not here for me. Like, it's an origin story for a character I didn't care about. It's the same with the Future's End tie-in for this series. It just felt superfluous and unneeded, and like they were trying to make this more than it was. So I'm giving it a 5, and you are damned lucky that you're getting that much. Star-Spangled War Stories featuring G.I. Zombie, issue number 8, written by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, art by Scott Hampton. So last issue, we got the whole big thing of, Carmen's managing to get away, and she ends up getting caught by a blockade as everything's going to hell. So we open up this issue, and Carmen's in the van with this hippie that she's commandeered the vehicle of. And the hippie's like, yeah, they're not going to, stop, are they? And Carmen's like, no, I don't think so. I think they want us dead. And so he takes a hit off a joint, and he's like, well, let's go. And he throws it in reverse and just starts flying out of there. They start shooting at her, and he's like, we got a turn coming up. I don't remember which way it was. And so he turns the wheel hard. He ends up accidentally going the wrong direction. And Carmen's like, oh, crap. Grabs the hippie, bails out of the van as it goes over like a 200-foot cliff. It smashes in the ground, explodes. And they manage to hide in some bushes while some other guys are like, well, they're going to want to know if there are bodies down there, so let's go. Meanwhile, Jared and Gravedigger are on their way to this facility in the private jet of what Gravedigger says is Grumpy Cat's owner. They don't call it Grumpy Cat, but they describe Grumpy Cat and say, yeah, he loans it off to the army whenever he's not using it as like a tax write-off. So, they do a lowdown of like, okay, here's what's going on in San Francisco. We got troops surrounding the area. But the big problem is that we have no idea what's going on in there. We need to get back in contact with Carmen. That is the number one thing we're looking for right now. But it seemed like her final transmission was pretty final, so we might not have that luxury. And Jared's just like, hey, don't underestimate her. She got this far. She'll be able to do it. So yeah, at that point, Gerry basically asks, hey, what do we know about like the zombies that this gas makes? Is it like, how long do they live without feasting on anything? And he's like, we have no idea yet, but until then, let's get to killing. So then we go back to the facility. The one girl, Kat, who was kind of friends with Carmen, the one who was showing her around, she's jailed up and she's talking with Forrest, and Forrest is like, so the girl you brought in here like defected, she ran off, she knows our secrets, why shouldn't we kill you? And she's like, I was just following orders from Duke. I'm just the messenger. I'm not in charge of background checks. That's on someone else. So I gave up my whole life to do this. Why would I throw it all away? And he's like, don't know, don't care, you're the one we're blaming. And he shoots her in the head point blank, and that's it for her. So we go to the San Francisco International Airport. That's where the jet lands. They hop on a helicopter to get the last little distance, and it turns out they're waiting on a guy named Coachman, who's at the scene, he's got like the piece de resistance going for him. So Carmen gets out of the car from the hippie, ends up getting to one of the other soldiers that's chasing after them, and it commandeers the vehicle from them. So now they've got a new vehicle going on here, and it's the people who were going down to check on them. And as she kills every last one of them, the only one that's left is a guy who she's like, hey, radio in, tell them that you found our bodies. Like, tell them that you're totally sure that we're dead. And so he radios in, they say 10-4, and she knocks him out, takes his radio, and gets in contact off panel with Jared and the rest of the group. So they meet up on a beach for recon, and she lays down the line. She's like, this place is exactly like the Utah place, but it's much worse, and I'm betting that they have an escape route to go off to a place they've got set up in Ecuador that they were talking about. So yeah, they've got a whole reboot the country thing going on, and they're willing to drop nukes like nobody's business. So everyone gets set. They all set up their military gear, get into the facility, and they say, all right, we've got the security cameras on loop. Coachman's here. He's got his piece de resistance. We're going to go in. We're going to find the control room, and we're going to find the guy in charge. We're going to find Forrest. So Jared and Carmen get teamed up. Everyone else goes on their own ways. We see that they come across two guys, take them down real stealthily, revolver, silencer, and a knife. And the one with the knife is like, tell us where Forrest is. And he's like, go to hell. And she's like, okay, cuts his throat. So they go down a few more floors. They end up hiding in a stairwell as a group of people come in, and one guy's like, hey, let's take the elevator. And the other one's like, nah, the stairs are more healthy for you. And then they all get killed because they were hiding in the stairwell. So that obviously alerted some people. Alarms start going off. She's like, well, all right, let's just get this over with. There's this bunch of guards guarding this one door. It must be important. They throw a grenade at it. It immediately lets into a control room, but not the control room. They find a woman hiding under a desk, and Jared's like, hey, come on out. We're not going to hurt you. And Carmen just pulls out a gun and just like, speak for yourself. I'll totally hurt her. And the woman's just like, yeah, main control room is down 2 flights of stairs right to your right. It'll let you right out in it. So Carmen holds the woman hostage while Jared goes down to deal with that. As he enters the control room, I think it's Forrest's assistant has a gun trained on him, and Forrest is like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And he turns around and says, you haven't aged a day, Jared. And turns out Jared recognized this guy as Jeff Kennedy, who he thought was already dead. And he's like, oh yeah, Kennedy's long gone. I changed my name. It all happened after we last had our thing overseas. And Jared's like, hold on 1 second. And he just disarms the assistant, shoots her in the head, being like, sorry, I just couldn't think with that gun in my head. Also, I don't really care about your secret origin and like your own things. I'm just here to shut you down. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I saw you in the last place and I had to obliterate it all because of you. And I assume the Gravedigger's with you as well. You're coming in here. And Jared's like, yep, the whole gang's here. And he's like, good, because you're already too late. I've already set the whole frequency. We're going to blow this place up. And when we do, it's taking the whole West Coast with it. And Jared's like, oh, how many bombs do you have? And he's like, not bombs, gas. We've got enough gas here to take out the whole West Coast. And we got the formula from you. And Jared's like, I didn't do anything. And he's like, no, but like you helped. It's a zombie gas. Come on, man. Are you really not putting that together? He's like, again, I really don't care about your secret plans here. I'm going to stop this from going off. And Forrest is like, what are you going to do? Kill me? And all of a sudden his ear gets blown off. And there's Carmen saying like, no, but I will. So he's running around screaming. They're trying to disarm the bombs. Forrest isn't being of any help to them. He's like, there's nothing you can do. Everyone you love is going to be dead. So Gravedigger calls in and says, hey, we need Coachman to start up his package. If we found the control room, it's time for him to do his thing. So the package launches. Meanwhile, Carmen's just kicking the crap out of Forrest because why not? All of a sudden, Forrest's phone goes off. Jared picks it up and he says, hello. And on the other end, it's a guy saying like, Forrest, what the hell's going on? And he's like, Leo? Leo's like, Jared? And he's like, hey, Leo, I should have known it was you. I'm coming after you, and nothing's gonna stop me. And Leo just crunches his phone, and he's like, god damn it, we gotta get out of here. Let's go. I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch one day. So Carmen and Jared put in some earplugs. Turns out that the piece de resistance from Coachman is a sonic pulse that will just absolutely knock out everybody in like a quarter-mile radius. It is that strong of a pulse, but the earplugs will stop it from rupturing their eardrums. So the thing goes off, everyone's taken care of, and we see that the Gravedigger's crew is up and at them. They've already interrupted the power supply. They're taking out all the backups, and it seems like they're easily going to be able to disrupt whatever bombs and nukes and stuff are in this place. So it's like, all right, you two, you make a great team. We're never, ever going to break you up. You're going to stay on this forever, and we're going to send you around to find all the other places. And Carmen's like, thank you, sir. It was a team effort. And Jared just goes, it was all me. So Jared and Carmen are looking out over the coast. They're enjoying the sunset. And he's like, yeah, I did a mission with them a few years ago. I thought they were dead. I lost an arm in the process. I guess they just faked their death and used my arm to make this sort of zombie virus thing that wasn't quite exactly me. So I'm kind of responsible for a lot of people dying, I guess. And Carmen's like, nah. If they didn't use your arm, they would have used something else. These doomsdayers, they always have a way of doing these things. So he's like, yeah, well, I'm enjoying the sunset. I'm in the company of a beautiful woman. How about we get takeout tonight? And she's like, oh, yeah, what are you thinking? Italian, Chinese, Mexican, Indian? And he's like, all of those sound delicious. You also just named a bunch of ethnicities, and I feel like I should tell you something about my appetite. The end. For now, question mark. It's the end. I like it. I feel like it wrapped up a little bit quickly and a little bit too neatly, where it's just like, oh, we're going to blow up this whole place. And then there's like, we just interrupted the power supply. It's fine. I kind of wanted like that climactic moment, of it going like 5, 4, 3, and then they cut the wire and it does that. Maybe that's a bit stereotypical, but it's just the kind of moment I was hoping for. And instead, we got this thing of, oh, the adventure continues elsewhere. So overall, this has been a shockingly good book. It doesn't feel like, a DC Comics superhero book. It just feels like, honestly, the closest thing would be something like a Dark Horse book or an IDW, something like that, where it's just not superhero. It's just kind of a creator-owned sort of vibe to it. But it's good. It's a solid little story that they wrote here. The characterization is fun. It's a fun book all around, and it gets gruesome where it needs to as well. Scott Hampton does a great job on the art. So collectively, I really don't have much to whine about. I think I'm going to give this one's probably like a 7.5, but the series overall is an 8, if not higher. So definitely check it out if you haven't. It's a very interesting story. Justice League Dark number 40, written by J.M. DeMatteis, art by Andre Guinaldo. So, last issue, the giant entity godness of the end, darkness, whatever, Pralaya, I believe it is, destroyed everything. Literally everything's gone, except for the House of Mystery, which somehow showed back up. And we see that inside the House of Mystery is John Constantine, and he freely admits he's not the real one. He was the version that Zatanna spent all of her time with while she was at that time before time thing, and she spent eternities just growing old, having kids with him, and like enjoying their lives together. So he is all the best parts of Constantine in Zatanna's eyes. And he was made again because something, and it turns out that the World Tree forged the House of Mystery again around this Constantine to be able to survive Pralaya's attack. So Constantine, not being real, then makes his own version of Zatanna, who also isn't real, but they are the absolute ideal versions of each other. And they come in and they just like, oh, John, it's me, it's you. And they make out and they realize, okay, why are we here? And they realize that the World Tree made the House of Mystery, put him in it. It's a failsafe. And turns out that Zatanna didn't know that they were here initially, but during their battle talks with Pelaia, realized that this was going on. She had a telepathic conversation with Constantine, and they hatched a plan. So they go into the garden of the House of Mystery, and they cause a seedling to begin sprouting. And as they do that, it very quickly turns into a little baby Swamp Thing. And this Swamp Thing is not Alec Holland, but it contains a spark of his consciousness. So it's Alec Holland, but it's stupid. Like, it has no idea what's going on. It's like a newborn baby. It doesn't even know what it is. So it starts sprouting up, and it's looking around like, oh, you guys look familiar, but I don't know. Are you my parents? And they're like, no, we're just friends. Don't worry about it. And he like stumbles out of the garden, and Constantine's like, okay, I kind of thought this thing would be stronger coming right out the gate because we have zero time to deal with this. And all of a sudden the house shakes and just like, yep, there it is. There's Pelaia. We're screwed. We have no time. So the hand of Pelaia comes out, grabs hold of the House of Mystery, being like, I erased literally the entirety of the multiverse and you're still here. So I'm a squish you. And Constantine and Zatanna grab each other's hands, just being like, all right, we got to do this. We got to try to take her on. So as long as we're here, Zatanna, the real Zatanna's still alive. And so they go outside the house with a big spark of magic. Or sorry, they defend the house with a spark of magic. And they look over at Swamp Thing and just like, okay, look, it's up to you now. And he's like, what? I don't know what you want me to do. And just like, look, you represent all the vegetation in this world. And that includes the World Tree. You have a spark, you have a link to it. So you need to tap into that. And he stumbles for a second. He's like, okay, just tell me what to do. So Zatanna and Constantine go outside. They face against the entity version of Pelaia, who's like, you stupid idiots. Like, you're just shadows, and you're trying to fight the Queen of Shadows. You're not going to be able to do anything. And as they're distracting her with all their fancy magic and whatnot, Swamp Thing leaps off the roof of the House of Mystery and plunges into Pelaia's like upper shoulder. And she's like, what the hell was... Did you just try to have Swamp Thing attack me? God, you are dumb. He's inside me now. I absorb him. I consume him. He is nothing but emptiness. He's non-existence now. You stupid. And all of a sudden she's like, what did you do? Oh God, what did you do? And her arm starts sprouting out these giant branches. From each branch is a seed pod that cracks open, and out comes the original Justice League Dark. All the original members who were killed by Pelaia just a few minutes ago. And it's like, yeah, we're here to kick your ass. And Pelaia's like, how is this? I absorbed you. And Zatanna's like, did you absorb us? Or did I willingly go in so that we could be planted like seeds to be rebirthed by the World Tree? And so as they're saying this, the branches grow more and more numerous. It turns into the World Tree that Zatanna talked with earlier. And the entire multiverse is immediately reformed in the exact same form, in the exact same instant that it was left when everything got destroyed. So all of creation has been saved, and nobody will remember it except for the Justice League Dark. So Pelaia is now deformed. She's sent back to her slumber. World Tree's like, yeah, no, she ain't gone, but this is not the time for this to be destroyed. Anyway, thank you, Zatanna. You have saved them all. You've given everybody a second chance. And you as well got the second chance that you deserve. And Zatanna's like, oh, thank you so much. So they all get teleported inside. And Zatanna, the fake Zatanna and the fake Constantine are like, okay, so what do we do now? And Zatanna's like, I'm going to teleport you guys back to that beginning of time so that you guys can live there for eternity in perfect love forever. And that's what you both want because you both are the idealized version of me and Constantine. And just like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much. And she's like, oh, don't thank me, just love each other. So they get teleported back. We see the other Swamp Thing gets returned back to the green as Alec Holland's like, you sure that's what you want to do? And he's like, yeah, I was only really here for that one thing. Bye. So he goes back to the green. We then see that the House of Mystery all of a sudden starts crashing out of the sky down to Earth. And everyone's like, what's going on now? And Zatanna's like, this one I have no clue about. It's just being summoned. So it crashes back down to Earth. And we see waiting there is a man in a trench coat. It's the actual real Constantine standing outside the front door. And everyone's like, oh my God, what in the hell is this? And he's like, hey, bet you all thought I died on Earth too. Please go read Constantine. It just ended. I was on Earth too. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't know what was going on, but I heard the House of Mystery calling for me while I was in a bar, and it wouldn't shut up until I showed up here. So, yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Anybody know what's up? And Zatanna's like, I know what's up. I don't want to be part of the Justice League Dark anymore. I went through way too much traumatic stuff recently, and I need to take a break. And someone's got to watch the house, and it's got to be you, Constantine. You belong in the house. Like, that's just by necessity what it needs to be. So I'm going to leave, and yeah, you deserve the house. And he's like, what are you talking about? You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. And she's like, yeah, you're right, I don't. And so she leaves off and says, yeah, be happy, John, if you can. And John just looks around the rest of Justice League Dark and just like, what's everyone staring at? Like, is someone going to tell me what happened here? What the hell's wrong with everybody? And everyone just takes off in different directions, teleports out. Like, they're all done. And it's just like, yeah, whatever, man, we'll see you. So Constantine's like, all right. Well, I don't know what that was all about. And I don't know why Zatanna was seeming so emo. But, yeah, I got my house back. So he goes inside. He says it's good to be home. And that's the end. Yeah, I mean, it feels like this last segment was a little bit of housekeeping, but I appreciate that they turned it into an emotional moment. As for the World Tree and all that, I mean, clearly the multiverse was going to be restored. They were not just going to say, oh yeah, and it turns out everything you're seeing is just before that moment. Like, no, of course not. I don't know. It's not a bad issue, but I guess that with how much I loved those 3 issues of dealing with the like characters and at the different points of like beginning of time, end of time, and a constant now, I kind of was hoping that there was going to be something more like time related, or at the very least something that would tie in a bit more to the realizations they had. While Zatanna got that, I feel like the other ones were sorely let down. They were barely in the story at all, to be honest. So yeah, it's a hit or a miss here. I think mostly I'm going to come down as like a 6.5 for this one, but it's got potential. It has moments to it that I think really work, but it's just not enough to carry the entire issue for me. This kind of just feels like a tacked on thing to the end. Again, we needed to have the multiverse restored. It was always going to be here. It's not actually tacked on. It just has that vibe. So 6.5, and that's it for Justice League Dark. Batman Eternal number 51, written by Snyder, Tynion, Fox, Higgins, and Seeley, art by Alvaro Martinez. So, last issue was the reveal. It was Cluemaster, and this issue's just gloating. It's just nonstop gloating. So, we're up on top of the Beacon Tower. Cluemaster's buddies are all guarding the bottom of the tower as the city burns, and he's like, yep, there's nothing you can do. And you are such a symbol to this city. You're strapped up against a broken bat symbol or signal. And I know a secret. I know that underneath that symbol, you like to pretend that you're more than a man. You're just an idea, but you're not. You're just a man. And I'm going to show that you, just like all the rest of us that you've ignored for so many years, are nothing. You're no one. And he's like, do you even remember my name? Do you even like know who I am? And he's like, you're Cluemaster, you're Arthur Brown. And he's like, good. He's like, you're a second-rate Riddler knockoff. And then Cluemaster just elbows him in the face, just being like, no. Riddler never got you like this. He never got you to this point, not even during Zero Year. I am the one who got you here. And he pulls off Batman's cowl. He sees it's Bruce Wayne. He's like, oh, well, that explains the whole ego thing and why your name is branded all over the city. Bruce Wayne. All right, cool. So, yeah, Bruce, I've killed all your allies. I'm burning your city to the ground. I've taken everything away from you. And I'm going to have you watch as you lose everything. And we see the Bat family going around, and they're just struggling to keep up. They're saving as many people as they can, but it is hectic as hell. And Julia's in the Robin's nest just like, oh, God, this is too much. It's too much for us to handle. We cut over to Catwoman in her nightclub, and she's there with some mob bosses who are like, hey, look, we all got an invitation to go out and loot the city. I say we go out and do that. And Catwoman's like, okay, let me have some time to think about it. And the one boss is like, what do you mean think about it? there's money out there. I'm going to get the money. And Catwoman pulls out her whip, pulls the guy up like to her boots, and is just like, whose city is this? Who's your boss? And he's like, you are, we work for you. And she's like, that's right. And you're not going to be doing anything till I say so. So cutting back to Cluemaster, he's just sitting around. He's just like, all of us D-listers, we talk. We have poker nights, little meetups. And one time, Joker was doing a big thing. And we were having a poker game. And I made the joke, what if we all went out and did something right now while you were distracted with the Joker? And everyone had a laugh. But that idea stuck with me. That idea of you would not be thinking to look for us lowlives when there's a big name villain at your doorstep. And that's when I knew that I could pull this off. So he basically explains how he just had to set the idea in Batman's mind that there was a big scale villain. And in doing so, Batman would be so stuck on the puzzle, so desperate to try to solve it, that he would overlook the tinier people. He would overlook the people that he didn't think were on the level to be able to pull off something like this. And he's like, yeah, we all think that you're a crime-fighting machine, that you can't make any mistakes. But the truth is, when you do make mistakes, they are so much bigger because of that. So yeah, he's basically saying all I had to do was create the illusion of a coordinated attack, and that's it. So really, the only thing I had to do from the beginning was get some Mad Hatter tech, knock off Mad Hatter tech, mind you, and make Jim Gordon pull the trigger at just the right time. And so he's sent off to jail, and you are immediately on the back foot. You have no idea what to do. Then I just send out some invitations to everybody in your rogues gallery. It doesn't matter what they do. As long as they cause chaos, all that you'll be thinking is, what kind of big name person am I forgetting that could pull together all of the other people in the rogues gallery and make a plan out of this? When in reality, it's people like Signal Master and myself. Like, we're the ones who are just waiting for chaos to take hold. And then all I have to do at the very end is, when the city's about to burn, I give your A-listers a bit more technology and a little bit more just to push you that extra bit over the edge. You literally had no idea it was me. You don't even have a file on your computer for me. And I'm the one who managed to take you out because you bought into your own damn mythology. So yeah, he's basically saying that he managed to pull it off. And Bruce is like, that's a nice story. Let me tell you one of mine. And he pulls off the chain and punches Cluemaster in the face. So we cut over to GCPD, where they've got a whole laundry list of things to play with here. They apparently, Bard used the fear of rioting to get everything on Gordon's wish list for the GCPD. And he's like, awesome. How many spotlights are there? It's like, 4 on top of every precinct in Gotham. And he turns to Bullock and is like, all right, let's go. Let's get to work. And Bard stops him, just being like, bro, I need you here. The cops don't listen to me because I was a dick. I need you to pull them all together. And Gordon's like, hey, remember when I brought you into Gotham? I told you that this city is going to try to knock you down, but in reality, it just wants it so that you'll get back up again. Not in those exact same words, but pretty much that thing. And Bard's like, okay, all right, I get it. So Bullock and Gordon go out. They start getting ready to take on the city. And Bard is approached by Maggie, who's like, hey, what do you want to do? How do we want to do it? And he's like, we're going to take back the whole city precinct by precinct. Let's go. So we then go over to Harper, who just saved a little girl from a fire. And she's just like, you're okay, you're okay. And she's like, you keep saying that. And she's like, right, I'm trying to deal with all this. So Stephanie Brown comes up on a motorcycle. She's got her bags packed. It's the end of Dark Knight Rises, where Harper's just like, what, you're leaving? You're just packing your bags and you're bailing all this? And Stephanie's like, you don't know this city and or Batman anything. We've done our things. I dropped all my stuff off with the press. Like, we can just leave. We can start a new life together. And Harper's just like, yeah, well, I'm not leaving. And Stephanie's like, you don't owe Batman anything. Why are you doing this? And Harper's like, you just really don't get it, do you? And she calls on the comms, asks where to go next, and she goes off on her way, telling Stephanie the easiest way to get out of town if that's really what she wants to do. And we see Stephanie driving off on her motorcycle. So Bruce is still beating the crap out of Cluemaster. And Cluemaster's just like, wow, is that all you got, man? First time you punched me, you broke 8 bones. This is nothing. Boy, I really pushed you to your limit, huh? And as he's baiting Bruce, we see that his friends that are guarding the building downstairs get knocked out by gas, and a mysterious shadow figure passes into the building. And so as Bruce knocks out a few of Cluemaster's teeth, he's like, all right, there it is. I just need to get knocked around a little bit, because, like, nobody was going to believe that I took on Batman and won if I didn't have at least a bruise on me. So, yeah, I'm done. He punches Bruce in the stomach, knocks him across the face, and then just pulls out a gun and says, like, I'm just going to shoot you. It may not be elegant. It may not be anything, like, over the top, but it's effective. And, I mean, now that I know you're Bruce Wayne, weren't your parents killed nearby here by some random guy with a gun as well? It's kind of poetic, but, like, yeah, it was never really part of my plan. I'm just making it work. And as he aims the gun, shadow figure comes up behind him, slices his throat with a knife. And Cluemaster just grabs it, tries to stop the bleeding, says, no, this wasn't according to plan. And as the figure walks forward, he says, your plan, maybe, but I've always had a plan of my own. And we see it's Lincoln March, aka Owlman, from the original Court of Owls storyline, who says, hey, brother, are you ready to end this? All right, full disclosure, I knew it was Owlman prior to this. I've read this story before. I remember it from the first time around, because it is such an out of nowhere thing, It is such a, like, wait a minute, I thought Cluemaster did all this. What's Owlmaster doing? What? And yes, there was another shadowy figure who was talking to Cluemaster at one point. I thought that was supposed to be Hush, but I guess it could have been Owlman this whole time. Regardless, I really appreciate this. I appreciate because this is the driving force of the book, is Batman got so wrapped up in his A-listers, in his top tier rogues gallery, that he overlooked the nobodies, the Z tier. And the fact is that, like, they are still a threat. I appreciate how not everything needs to be a Joker story. Not everything needs to be this, oh God, it's this one guy who's a threat to Batman and everything else. Like, anything can be a threat to Batman if they are just pulling the strings well enough. And I appreciate that from a story point, as well as the idea that, yeah, Batman does sometimes drink his own Kool-Aid. He knows, like, I'm the goddamn Batman, and he's not going to be outwitted by freaking Cluemaster. So I appreciate it. I think it's an interesting story beat. Yeah, it's still a bit torn on the Owlman thing. I don't remember exactly how he got involved. I do just remember he was there, so we'll see that in the next and final issue. But overall, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to say 8.5. I really do like this issue. And it's also just because I'm a little bit of a fan of Cluemaster. He's just, God, he tries. He puts all of his effort into it. And whether he's a douchebag or not, you got to appreciate the hustle. So 8.5, and we'll see how the series wraps up next week. Future's End, number 47, written by Azarel, Lemire, Jurgens, and Giffen, art by Andy McDonald, Alberto Ponticelli, and Alan Goldman. So, Brother Eye is fully active. He's on every screen across the entire world, and even in the JLA satellite. He's basically saying, like, you guys, humanity, good run, good effort. You can take a break now. I'm going to take control, and I'm going to do what I need to do here. And immediately, back in Terrific Tech headquarters, as they're fighting off robots and stuff, Adam's just like, well, I guess I'll do the same thing I just did to Brainiac, shrink down, go inside the computer. But he's immediately just fly swatted away. And Terrific Tech's like, yeah, I kind of made it so that wouldn't work again. So he uses the T-spheres, which are on an independent system, to be able to get them out of here as best they can. Batman uses an exploding batarang to blow off the door, but they are approached by more of the robots. And Mr. Terrific's like, there's nothing we can do. They're everywhere. And then in comes a bunch of incendiary devices that are from the Batman Beyond costume, now being worn by Tim Drake. And Batman immediately recognizes it's Tim. He's like, hey, Tim. And, well, he's angry. He's upset about it. He's like, long time no see, Bruce. And he's like, yeah, you got a lot of nerve putting on a uniform like that. And he's like, yeah, hey, thanks would be a nice thing to say as I lift you up out of this hole. So he brings them all up onto the roof. And Plastique is like, Dick. And he's like, no, Dick's a cool guy. This guy's an ass. And it's like, okay, well, who is this dick? So Adam introduces himself to Tim. He's just like, oh yeah, Tim Drake, look, we have a plan with the time band, and Batman thinks, and Tim immediately, like, he thinks he's doing it himself instead of me, obviously. You can't let anyone else save the world, can you? And he's like, oh, well, tell me someone who can, and I'll gladly let them do it. And that's where the Alfred AI kicks in. He's like, oh, Master Bruce, hello, I'm an AI that sounds just like Alfred. You can't go because the time travel is directly calibrated to wait, and the jump, it's going to have to be Tim because that's what's necessary for the time jump. And Tim's just like, well, I guess that settles it, huh? And Batman's like, so Tim asks how the status on the time band's going. They still need energy. They're waiting for Firestorm to show up because Firestorm will be the battery. And Tim's like, I thought Firestorm was dead. It's like, well, I guess not. And then they all turn around as Firestorm arrives. And Tim recognizes it's Madison. And he just immediately goes up, plants a big one on her lips. And she's like, what the hell are you... Oh, Tim? What? And so they share a moment. He takes off the mask. They make out a little bit more. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to catch up. And he's like, look, we'll have time for that later. And as they look down in the hole, they see all the robots starting to pile up. And Adam's like, I don't think you are, man. So at that point... Batman's trying to like negotiate with the Alfred AI, just like, okay, but like how much of a difference is the jump really going to make by weight? Because like I still feel like I should be able to do it. And he's like, oh, by my calculations. And Tim's like, no, it doesn't matter, I'm still going. Look, let me talk to Madison for a second. And Batman's like, oh yeah, by all means, please just take as much time as you want here. So they sit down on the edge of the roof, and they explain the plan. Madison's like, okay, so time travel is apparently possible. That's neat. And he's like, look, I thought you were dead. You being here now, it should change things, right? I should be able to say I'm not going because you're here, but I don't know. It's not. Something's different. And she's like, oh, well, are you doing this to prove Batman wrong? And he's like, I mean, that crossed my mind, and also like I felt like I had nothing to live for, but obviously that's not the case with you here. But honestly, it's because I'm a hero. Deep down, I'm always going to be a hero, and that's just what I need to do here. So they get up, they go back over. The robots are now getting up onto the roof, so everyone's trying to fight them off. They hook up some jumper cables to Firestorm, hook it up into the time band, and just like, all right, well, it should be good. Just start setting it off. And they set the coordinates in time as everyone else is fighting off the robots. Tim goes to Madison, just like, look, no matter what, I will find you. And he launches the time bands, and as Batman's saying, he's like, Tim, you gotta go. And he's like, well, it's not fully charged yet. And he's like, it doesn't matter. There isn't time to... And then all of a sudden, Batman like stops for a second. He's like, by weight? Wait a minute. And it's as Terry's fading away, he's like, you son of a... And that's it. Teleports to now. Like DC continuity as it's happening right now. Technically a week in the future. But regardless... we're in Earth's orbit. There's the Brother Eye satellite. Tim teleports in, and Alfred's like, yes, we're here. We're exactly where we need to be. And Earth 2's refugees will soon be picking up on this satellite's beacon and will leap to our universe. And that causes everything else that happens. This is the point where it needs to stop. So go in and start dealing with it. And so Tim starts laying down explosive devices, and Alfred's like, that's probably not going to work. And he's like, why not? And then all of a sudden he's hit by a laser beam, and Alfred's like, yeah, anything that was made by Bruce Wayne and Mr. Terrific is absolutely going to be able to deal with you trying to plant some bombs. And Brother Eye recognizes it's Tim. It's just like, you are an ally of Bruce. Why are you trying to kill me? And he's like, look, it's trust me, Brother Eye, this is what we got to do. And Alfred's like, oh, its purpose is to defend and protect the Earth. That's the reason it was built. You need to appeal to that. That's the only way you're going to be able to take it out. So he talks to Brother Eye, and he's like, look, you have long-range scanners, right? There's another universe, Earth 2. It's just like our own. And Brother Eye's like, yeah, Batman already knew about it. He had a whole crossover with Huntress from over there. And it's like, right, you're about to launch a beacon that's going to signal that they can come over here. If you do that, it's going to let in apocalyptic people, and everyone is going to die on this planet. And he's like, okay, I can see you're from the future, and you seem to be pretty sure of what you're talking about. Mind you, Mr. Terrific from our Earth is on one of those ships. And Tim's just like, yeah, and you gotta, if he was here, he'd tell you that you need to just let him go. Do not interact, do not say anything. And as Tim's talking, he's still like trying to subtly plant more explosives, and Brother Eye just fries them all. He's like, yeah, I'm getting rid of those while I think this through. Don't try to think you can bomb me. And Tim's just like, God damn it, just don't do it. And he's like, all right, fine, I won't do it. I'm not going to launch the beacon, but in order to remain undetected, I'm going to self-destruct now. We got 15 seconds. And Tim's just like, wait, seriously? Like, we did it? And Alfred's like, yeah, it seems like he's telling the truth. It seems like that's what's up. And immediately, Brother Eye's like, look, if I do this, your future is going to become undone. It's not going to exist anymore. However, I can save you. I can return you to that timeline beforehand. So I'll go ahead and send you through. And he doesn't specifically say to that timeline. He just says, I'll send you back to her. And so Tim's just like, oh, back to where? Back to what? And so he teleports out. He says, Earth will endure your destination. And he teleports out right before he says 3, 2, 1. So they teleport back. It's a forest. Tim hits a bunch of tree branches on the way down. And as he sits up, Alfred starts scanning. And it's like, I'm not sure what this is. And as Tim looks around, he seems shocked. He's like, is this what I think it is? Alfred says, I believe so. Tim says, no way. And that's the end of the issue. What's he looking at? I don't know. We got one more issue to find out. But judging by the cover being a purely black cover with the Brother Eye logo, I don't think it's good. I don't understand the moment where Batman suddenly realizes that by weight doesn't make sense, or what realization he had. That's the one point of this that I just really don't get. That and the fact that they fully let Tim and Madison just go off and sit for a while there were robot zombies coming up through the floor, and Batman's just like, yeah, go ahead, go do your thing, man. It's silly to me. Beyond that, I mean, it's an okay issue. It's again, though, just one of those things where when all of it is focused so solely on this specific corner of what the book was, it makes it feel like the rest of the book was pretty much useless. And I know that we got all the wrap-ups to that sort of stuff last issue, like all of the 50 Sue and all that other stuff. That all got wrapped up. But it's like, why then? You know, it's like they didn't play a part in this pretty much at all. There was a mild little bit in regards to the Brainiac stuff, but like this part of it, the Brother Eye, felt like you could have told this weekly story in 10 issues if you just cut out all of the in-between fluff. And obviously it's not what they were going for, but it just feels like such a padded out story because of it. And we're still not done. Whatever's happening next issue, we'll see what it is. There's a Batman Beyond series coming out post-Convergence, so I'm sure it has something to do with that. But yeah, it's, I don't know. This issue's okay, so I think I'm going to say 6.5, but this series has had a lot of problems, and I'm not going to shy away from that. Earth 2, World's End, number 25, written by Wilson, Johnson, Bunn, and Bennett, I believe. Yes, and art is like 7 different people. So this issue picks up with the survivors taking off the planet. They all start flying away, and Calabax, they're like, all right, they're all trying to flee. Burn their corpses and feast upon them, my armies of apocalypse. And we see them all trying to attack the ships as the heroes stay back and do what they can to try to intercept. One of the ships has Batman and Dick Grayson piloting it, which they've never met before this point. And as they're blasting through parademons and whatnot, Batman's like, oh, the human race to survive, we gotta get past and make every shot count. And Dick Grayson's like, my son's on one of those ships. You don't gotta tell me twice. But as they are trying to make their way through, they start to get swarmed, and the ship seemingly explodes, but everyone inside is still okay, so we see Huntress and Red Arrow are inside this ship, and Huntress, of course, has the codex of all of humanity's DNAs and whatnot, and it's like, oh no, but like, what are we supposed to do to protect it if we're in a ship that is crashing down? And Red Arrow's like, assume crash positions, I guess. So we then go to Power Girl and Val Zod as they're fighting against Darkseid, Val-Zod just gets tossed down a hole because Darkseid's like, whatever, this guy's unconscious, I don't need him. And Power Girl just starts laying a smackdown as best she can. She's landing some pretty solid hits. And Darkseid's like, oh, you will try, and you will, and then he gets punched in the face. He's like, okay, well, that's just rude. So as Val-Zod's going back down to the atmosphere, he hears Red Arrow and Huntress's conversation about his crash positions, and he's like, oh, all right, get into it. And he picks up the ship, gently sets it down on the planet. He's like, all right, you guys are safe for now. I got to get back to it. And he flies back up towards where Darkseid is. Power Girl's still in the middle of the fight. She manages to gouge out one of Darkseid's eyes. And he's just like, all right, well, that's enough. He blasts her with the remaining Omega Beam, backhands her, and that's when Val-Zod comes in, and he's like, now hold on, Mr. Darkseid. I swore I'd never use violence, but I'm starting to think you might deserve it. And Darkseid just headbutts him from behind, and it's just like, all right then, I guess I'll kill you. And he just punches him into the ground, stands over his body, and he's like, I have crushed into the dirt the most powerful super beings your planet has to offer, and I'm going to take everyone else who thinks they can survive me and do the same, because that's what Darkseid do. So as he's saying this, all the other heroes show up, and they're like, oh, you think you're so tough up there in your big old planet that eats our planet, but you in our house now. Check it out. And they all start attacking him. Like, Hawkgirl comes in, and she's just firing normal ass, like, guns. Like, it's literally nothing. And Darkseid just starts blasting them one by one. Flash runs alongside Hawkgirl for a minute, and Hawkgirl's like, hey, I thought you were on a ship with your mom. And he's like, yeah, she's on the ship. I'm just trying to buy her some time. As they're fighting, there's one panel where there's like a person that's just all black. I don't know who it's supposed to be. And he says, I'm no hero, but I'll do what I can to help. And then he is in no subsequent panels. I have no idea who this is supposed to be. It's just it's like a silhouette. It's like an unlocked fighter in a game. Like, I don't know who this is. But regardless, Batman, Huntress, Red Arrow, they join the fight as well. Everyone's facing down Darkseid collectively. Huntress is happy to be next to Power Girl again. They share a little moment. And Darkseid just smiles and says, you are all just racing towards your doom. Meanwhile, up in space, they're still trying to figure out how they can have several million people in a ship built for several 100,000. And Green Lantern is helping them set up this lensing technology, the thing that Mr. Terrific used to... Not Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific, to figure out how the new gods can, like, pull across multiverse. And they are syncing that up with the ship's camouflage dimensional stuff in order to pull a bunch of ships from a bunch of different universes all at once. And they do a countdown. Terry Sloan's like, don't say I never did something for humanity. And as they engage, in come, like, at least 20 more ships that Sloan made across the multiverse, and all of them are empty because none of the other ones are being attacked by Darkseid. So as this technology goes live, Alan Scott is like, wait a minute. Oh my God, I feel the multiverse is green. It's surging through me. Oh, this is the power that I needed. This is fantastic. But I can feel a great amount of lives being snuffed out. I have to go deal with that. People of Earth, it is I, Green Lantern. Come on up. We got plenty of room. Send all the ships. And then Sato pops over the comm being like, hey, Green Lantern, we're kind of being attacked down here. Darkseid's here. Things aren't good. And so he immediately bolts his way down. But by the time he gets down there, Darkseid is standing over the bodies of all of the heroes. And he's like, nope, you're too late. I've taken them all out, and if you want to save this stupid little planet of yours, it's you versus me, Green Lantern, mano a mano. And that's where the issue ends, to be concluded next time. Look, all of my issues with this book were really dependent on the idea that it didn't feel like there was any hope. It just felt like 20 plus issues of just everything is wrong all the time and you can never catch a break and it's a misery torture porn fest. And I'm like, I don't want to read that. I want something where occasionally the heroes are going to come out on top without them immediately having to turn around and see their dog getting kicked. You know, like, regardless, that is all stuff that I had problems with in the past, like 20 plus issues. Between this issue, the last issue, and hopefully the next issue, it started to turn around. It feels like there are wins here. They have enough ships for everybody. That's a win. They managed to gouge out Darkseid's eye. Doesn't seem like it's slowing him down, but kudos, you did it. I'm starting to see more of a positivity here, but it just feels like a little bit too little too late. It just has not enough pull here at the end of the series for me to say that, no, this really made the series all worth it. This moment of everyone triumphing. Like, no, they're barely scraping by. It's not a triumph. So maybe that's what the series always was, and I'm just being hypercritical for them wanting to do this thing, but like, it just feels like, what's the point here? You know, like, okay, congratulations, you're saving 0.1% of the population or whatever. It still feels like everyone's miserable. Give me some character who's even a kind of a bit hopeful. That's one of my favorite moments from this book, is Alan Scott getting the multiversal green, because you see this spark on his face of like, I can do this. Like, that's all I needed from this entire book. So anyway, final score, I'm going to say 6.5. It's not great. It's not even good, but it's at least a step up from what we've been doing for a while here. So hopefully we end on at least a little bit of a maybe we'll find our way kind of note. Whatever. And that's it. That's all the comics put out by DC Comics this March 25th, 2015. And by all the comics, I mean 14 out of 19, because obviously the other one, I've already been through all this. You know the deal. Anyway, next week, we got a fifth week. We have a magical, wonderful fifth week. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with fifth weeks, what are you doing on episode 186 of this show? Did you really think this was the best jumping on point? Mind you, 2 episodes from now might be a good jumping on point, but the rest of that, no. Go back. What are you doing? For those of you who have been here, yes, fifth week means we've got annuals. We've got Jeff Johns books that he couldn't keep up on. I don't actually know if that's true, but I am like willing to put money on it. And then, yeah, we have the big endings of weekly series. We have beginning of Convergence. This week 5 is going to be one to remember. We also have at least one backup story. I know that there's been a backup going on in the back of Batman that I've been holding off on covering. I'll be doing that there. It's just Joker related stuff, so be sure to check that out. And there might be more, but I will let you know by next week. Anyway, what are the books that are actually coming out next week? Well, like I said, it's a doozy. So in terms of event stuff, we have Convergence number 0. So leading into that absolute hellfire. We have 2 Endgame tie-ins with Arkham Manor Endgame and Gotham Academy Endgame. Those are both going on. In terms of annuals, we have Batman and Robin, Batwoman, Batman/Superman, Sinestro, and Teen Titans. In terms of normal issues, we have, just going through, Harley Quinn, Superman/Wonder Woman, normal Wonder Woman, and our 3 weeklies, which is the final issue for each of those weekly series, Batman Eternal, World's End, and Future's End. And yeah, that is a lot. There's a lot going on there. Like I said, the backup's in there as well. So we're going to have an action-packed episode. We're going to have some fun. We're going to cry about Convergence for a while and then just continue to do that for the next, oh God, that's like 8 weeks. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'm not ready. Anyway, yeah, so that's all coming up on the docket. Be sure to check that out. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on any of the comics I've talked about this week, last week, any week at all, go ahead and hit me up on the comment section beneath this video. That's really about the only place I check, but I will find out if you manage to post in any one of the other numerous social media platforms that we have a presence on. We have a Discord. We have a Patreon. We have a subreddit. We have a Patreon. Did I mention the Patreon? I feel like such a shill saying that, but at the same point, if I do it ironically, then it doesn't count. Also, I don't ever see any of the money from that. So give it or don't give. I don't give a crap. Yeah, so anyway, that's going to do it for me. Like I said, next week, big week. Be sure to tune in. But until then, thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is you consume this podcast. Be sure to give it a positive interaction via whatever means you happen to do so. And always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.